if I want to bet, Tom,
Yeah.
if I want to bet on combat sports, if I want to bet on sports at all,
Yeah.
who do you think? I mean, where do I turn? I want somebody who's established, somebody who's been around a long time.
Well,
right.
Bovada online sportsbook out of Las Vegas, Nevada, they've been around since pre-internet. These people have been around. Oh, what? These people have been around forever. So you can bet on anything. So obviously this is an MMA, a boxing, a combat sports betting podcast. The point is you're going to listen. You're going to bet with us. We're giving you our informed picks where we learn for however long, and you're going to bet with us. So you can go to roughhousefriday.net/bet. roughhousefriday.net/bet, or go to our link tree in the link below in the description, and you can click literally the tab says bet with us. It will take you directly to Bovada. You can place a bet with debit, credit card, or Bitcoin. They also accept crypto.
Or Bitcoin?
Yeah, and they'll also pay you out in Bitcoin. And whenever you do your first deposit, make sure you use our link. You do your first deposit, they will give you up to 75% of your deposit. So if you deposit $100, they will put $175 into your account to play with. They will match your deposit up to 75%.
Wow.
Payouts are effortless. They're instant. Bovada's secure. They've been around forever. They're the highest rated sports book in America online.
Highest rated, by the way. That's you want trustworthiness.
Oh, that's the biggest thing. And they also have the best odds. I mean, we use their odds throughout these episodes, and you're going to hear the odds, and they do have
it's
the best odds.
scientific, man. It's scientific.
And you can, yeah, you're right. And you can bet on anything. You can bet on who's going to win the next Grammy. You can bet on who's going to win the presidential election. It's not just sports. It is sports betting. That's all on there. But you can also bet on entertainment. You can bet on anything. But we encourage you to take our advice, or really take our guest advice. That's what we're here to do, is learn to and bet with MMA and boxing with our picks. Just use our link.
We want you to win money. That's the whole point of this.
That is the goal.
I want to win money, and what I'm going to do is I believe in putting my money where my mouth is, skin in the game. I'm going to place bets through Bovada every time.
Me too.
And so what I learn on this podcast, I'm going to put, down in money.
100%. And I'm going to do the same.
Bovada.
And I think that's going to be great to hold ourselves accountable, because we're going to be here every week. So, hopefully people will build a trust with us. They'll start doing it as well. But we're going to put our money where our mouth is for sure. Just go to roughhousefriday.net/bet. And if you bet with the show, or you learn something on the show and you place a bet with Bovada, send it to us. You can email it to us at roughhousefriday@gmail.com, or just any social media. Follow us on there. Send us your bet. Send us your winnings. We want to know how you guys are doing. Or if you lose and you want to yell at us, send us that too.
Exactly.
roughhousefriday.net/bet. Go bet with us. Bovada.
Do you like making money betting on fights? Is it your favorite thing to do every Saturday night? Do you like some handsome fellas breaking down the odds? Callen and McCormick are the MMA gods. Roughhouse Friday. Roughhouse Friday. Roughhouse Friday. It's a Roughhouse Friday.
Well, here it is, Roughhouse Friday. And by the way, the point of this podcast is to give people essentially the best information, the most information when they want to bet or before they bet on combat sports, right? I mean, that's kind of the idea.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Today we're going to talk to three very different people, starting with the great Jon Anik, who knows just a little bit about fighting. Jon Anik.
What's going on, brother? You in?
Johnny.
Oh, how great is this?
What's going on, man?
What's up, buddy?
Oh, it's great to finally see your face and talk to you. And my man, Tom, thank you for pushing this back an hour. Sorry, these Connor weeks are just insanity, as you might expect.
Oh, I can imagine, man. We appreciate you giving us the time.
Yeah, you're a big deal now. This is what happens, John. What happens is all of a sudden you do a podcast and they go, can we get Jon Anik? And you're Jon Anik. You see what happens? Now you're a name.
That's very kind of you. It's crazy though. Like when Kamaru Usman headlines, I might get 3 to 5 media requests. And when Connor headlines, it's like 3 fucking dozen, man. It's insane,
It's so weird.
We got to enjoy him while he's here because,
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. And what I want to do with this podcast really is, I had this idea. I love talking about fighting. I love it. Because of course I've always wanted to be a fighter and it'll never happen. I'm built for dance, not for war. And, I just thought to myself, I gotta just, figure out a way. If I were to bet, I would try to be as educated as I could and talk to the best people. You've watched, how many fights do you think you've watched?
I mean, I've been calling fights for 10, 12 years. I mean, I did Bellator 1 in 2009, and I thought they had hired the wrong guy. I'm showing up like, man. But I've been doing this for 10 years, so I've watched a lot of fights, but I also have been betting on sports essentially every day since 1996.
Is that right?
I come at this with I'm an addict, so
we have
I don't play,
problems.
and my average wager is like 55 to pay 50, but the volume of bets, if you saw the volume of bets I place on like an average Major League Baseball day, it's disgusting.
It's an outrage.
And see, I knew this about you. We had you on my other podcast, and I've listened to Anik and Florian every week. Shout out Cody Mara. But
I love Ken Florian.
I knew that. Yeah, shout out Kenny Florian, of course, and Ray
John.
Longo.
Tom, before you go, John, do you train? Do you train at all? Do you train in jiu-jitsu, boxing, any of that stuff?
No, I mean, I do a little boxing, right? I work with Gilbert Burns as strength and conditioning coaches once a week. I took like 6 jiu-jitsu classes several years ago, and I'm never fucking going back. So.
Not for you.
I love that. I'm sorry, Tom. I interrupted you.
No, I was just saying that I knew that about you, the sports gambling and all that, which is why I thought you would be a brilliant first guest, because you're breaking the cherry. You're busting it right now on Roughhouse Friday. You're the first guest ever on this podcast. And I knew that you had the same gambling addiction that, I have. And I also know that you can't necessarily you can't make picks on UFC fights. I get that, or you don't. I know that. But I also thought nobody could break it down better than the guy that's having the fighter meetings with these people, the guy that's going to be directly in front of it.
And I got to give you credit, Tom, because I had mentioned I wanted to do a gambling podcast with MMA and fighting in general. You basically reached out to me, and you kind of made all this happen. So
yeah, man. And if I'm being completely honest with you, I was playing a show that night whenever I reached out to you, and I think I was pretty inebriated. Whenever I was like, hey, I heard this on a podcast. This is a brilliant idea. And I was like, let's see if he'll do it with me. And then you give me a call and you're like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
So John, so you're an addict. So baseball is an intellectual sport to gamble on. I have friends that have made a lot of money and lost a lot of money on baseball, but baseball, there's a system. Yes or no?
Yes. See, I like betting systems, and there are a lot of sharps who would tell me I'm crazy. Like if the Yankees lose 4 games in a row, and perhaps this is the Red Sox fan in me, I'm always betting against them and kind of trying to play both sides of it. But if the Yankees lose 4 in a row, I'm going to bet on them every day until they win a goddamn baseball game. And a lot of handicappers in Vegas would tell you that that's just long-term, not advisable. But it's worked out largely. So
you have a winning record betting on baseball.
Definitely betting on baseball. Certainly not in the National Football League, but I've been in like the Vegas Super Contest for the last 7 years. Like I'm all about it, but no, I'm contractually prevented from betting on mixed martial arts and boxing. I don't think Dana would be too upset if I bet on the Jake Paul Tyron Woodley fight, though. So maybe we'll break the contract for that.
If you were to, well, that's actually, we're going to get it. I'm going to have you back for that because I don't want to say anything, but I want you to break that down. But if you were, I know I don't want to get you in trouble contractually, but if you were to bet on, if let's say you started betting on MMA back in 2009 when you first got to Bellator, how do you think your record? How would you be as good as you were in baseball?
No, I mean, I
love your honesty.
Well, the thing is that if you're, I always wanted to be a professional sports bettor, and had I not had children, maybe I could have actually pursued that quest. It's hard to go to your wife, be like, hey, honey, I'd like to put $20,000 on this team tonight, and if they win, we'll get $10,000. And most of those bets minus 200, you're going to hit. But when you miss one of those, you go home and tell your wife you lost $20,000. It's not ideal. But no, the thing is, if you're a successful sports bettor, you're hitting like 55, 56% of the time, right?
Which is what you need to do.
So I would say I would probably hit on 50% because, as my man Joe Rogan always says, the only thing we can guarantee this Saturday night at UFC 264 is that something fucking crazy is going to happen. So largely, this would not be the sport that I would pick to bet on. And candidly, sometimes when I have inside information, it goes the other way. We knew Conor McGregor was on one leg going into the Chad Mendes fight. So in theory, even though Mendes didn't have a full training camp, I'm thinking Mendes would be the sharp side with this information, and Conor on one leg essentially beat him. So inside information doesn't always, pay the bills.
Well, let's break these fights down. I want to break down the 3 fights. I think Sean O'Malley is so much more experienced. I think he's like a -9. What is he like?
Minus 900 right now.
Not minus 900. So, but barring some unforeseen, I don't know, technique, this kid, he's going to fight a 6-4, all due respect, or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know that we even need to break that down. I think the educated money is on O'Malley. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge price. And I was with this guy, Johnny Avello, the DraftKings Sportsbook director, yesterday, and he was sort of saying, who's going to actually lay minus 835? I'm calling the fight, but I would lay it, right? Here's the thing. if you're doing this long term, right? Again, you talk about going home to your wife, honey, I'm going to put $83,500 on Sean O'Malley to win 10 grand. What do you think?
Right.
Sounds insane, but my twin brother would tell you it's a free 10K, right? Chris Mutino.
God, that's so risky though. God, John,
there's no such thing.
I'm so tempted, but damn it, that's risky. God, that because his foot goes numb, something crazy happens.
Well, and therein lies the rub, Bryan, right? It's that he hasn't been durable, right? So that would certainly give me pause, but he is fighting a guy who, even though Chris Mutino was training for a fight, 2-2 over his last 4 on the regional scene, I think he's going to have to come up with a near perfect performance to win. But I will say, and I'm glad we're talking after our fighter meetings, kid's not phased at all, right? Kid from Milford, Massachusetts, tough as nails, has proved as much during a pretty long pro career. He doesn't seem phased at all by fighting Sean O'Malley and thinks he can touch him. I guess we'll find out.
How tall is that kid?
I can look it up for you right now. He's not tall.
He's not. Is he? He's pretty orthodox too, isn't he?
Yeah, his last opponent took an absolute beating, and then he was able to get the submission win when the kid kind of quit. But people don't realize how good Sean O'Malley is, right?
Well, as a guy who's, and this is ridiculous to even say, but I had the privilege of just kind of rolling with him a little bit. And when I say rolling, I mean flow grappling. And when I say flow grappling, they were giggling, and I was doing my bad takedowns and my Greco, I was working on my 2-on-1s, these just dumb shit that I thought. And I by the way, I crawled off the mat. The mat after, you know, I don't know, rolling for, was it 9 minutes? I'm a piece of shit. But the point is, Sean's a big, at 135, I'm 170, 175.
Yeah.
Sean is every bit as tall as I am. I'm almost 6 feet. And he felt way stronger than me, which shouldn't be surprised, but also he felt as heavy as I am. So this is a big 135.
And he's got the total package, right? We talk a lot about the striking and the flash and everything else. Yeah. We talk about his personality, but like this dude's doing Quintet Ultra. He's grappling. He's a very educated and willing grappler. People have no idea. Like I sit here and talk to you guys, and I think he's top 5, top 7 in one of the deepest divisions in the UFC. And yet he's not even ranked. He just hasn't had the opportunity to test himself against these guys. So you either believe in him, Bryan, like you and I do, or you don't. And other than that durability issue, which could rear its ugly head, I'm chip center of the table on Sean O'Malley, and I have been pretty much since day one.
Me too. And I don't think it's fair to even judge him on his durability when it comes to that one leg kick where his foot went numb. That can happen to anybody. That's a nerve thing. It's a freak kind of perfect shot. So,
well, it's been 2 fights though, right? I mean, if you look at his UFC, right, 6 fights in the UFC, twice he's had debilitating injuries, one of which he was able to work through and obviously win that fight against Andre Sukumtop. But yes, no, and he's also too had hip issues, as you know. He has a totally rebuilt right leg. So I'm excited for him. And one thing too that you've heard him say, the pressure ain't going to get to him. He's not worried about.
He believes in himself more than anyone on the planet.
Yeah, he really does, man. He's so unique. I've been lucky enough to get to know him, and he's such a unique guy. But John, at the end of the day, I guess we are talking about O'Malley. You just told me that's a free 10K. You're telling me you'd put 83 grand down to win 10K. That's what I heard out of your mouth.
Right.
So I'm just saying, are you telling me that people should put their money down on Sean on O'Malley?
So here's what I'll say. 2 things. So first of all, I'm a straight wager guy versus a parlay guy. So I think a lot of people feel like they can just fill him in, maybe give a little bump to their parlay. I wouldn't necessarily advise that at this price. All I'm telling you is that if I get a divorce and I'm a pro sports bettor in Las Vegas, I wouldn't turn my nose up at laying 40 grand on Sean O'Malley to win 5K. 80 to win 10, I don't know. But 40 to win 5, little more palatable.
40 to win 5. After taxes, you got 2,500. You got a problem. And I love it. And I love it.
Sports bettor might be our fucking demographic, Bryan. We don't know yet.
Right.
Dude, exactly, Tom. John, I love your guts. This is great. Okay. So we got O'Malley. I would say I can't put 40 down to win 5. It just scares me too much. Yeah. You're more man than I'll ever be. But all right, let's move on to let's go on to the
Tai Tuivasa, Greg Hardy.
Let's talk about Tai Tuivasa and Greg Hardy.
All right, we're getting all of our odds right now today from Bovada Online Sportsbook. They are sponsoring the show. Go to roughhousefriday.net/bet. It'll take you straight there to bet with us. So on Bovada today, they do have Tai Tuivasa at -140 as the favorite, and they have Greg Hardy at +115. And
those odds make sense to me.
Yeah, me too. And the over/under odds have here too. Over 2.5 rounds is +105, and the under is -135 on that fight.
John?
Interesting. So heavyweight MMA is weird, right? Like you can get some stinkers in heavyweight MMA. And I like this matchup. I like the time at which it is happening for both guys. And again, I'm thankful that I'm talking to you guys after the fighter meetings, because we sat down with Greg Hardy yesterday, and you know, the cardio has abandoned him in there. And as a bettor, if we're a betting podcast, shout out to fucking Bovada, I don't want to bet like on the guy whose cardio abandons him, generally speaking, as a general thesis statement, betting mixed martial arts. So he has gone to great lengths to change his walking around weight from like 315 to 275. But
is he at 315?
Yeah.
Well, so when he was in the NFL, right, he was never the money guy on the defensive line, like making $15 million a year. So they would move him around the defensive line. So sometimes he was playing at 265. Sometimes they would ask him to come to camp and play at like 315. But he's a much better athlete when he's obviously 275, or at least 275 when he's walking. But yeah, he cuts down to 266. No heavyweight in UFC history has ever missed weight, I found out recently.
Well, I was at American Top Team. And when I say that, again, this is because I'm friends with Thiago Alves, and so Thiago's nice enough to hold mitts for this moron as I'm doing Muay Thai, as Dustin Poirier is watching, like, and just kind of joking around, sitting there. And it was just so surreal and so much fun. But I saw Greg Hardy, and I was so nervous because on Fighter and the Kid, Brennan and I had kind of roasted him a little bit, just a little bit. I can't remember what it was about, but I remember just looking at the size of that guy's legs and just hindquarter. It's just his ass and legs, just that area, and just his lower back. And I just felt like a gazelle. And a lion was just a little too close. And I wouldn't be surprised if he could run me down right away. I'm not faster. You're talking about an NFL, a super athlete.
Right.
And he's scary big. And for me, though, if he has changed his cardio, which is tough to do.
It is.
The thing about this is this: two of us, it touches you and you go to sleep. I haven't seen heavyweights can knock you out with a jab, and then when they get really tired, it just becomes this weird kind of meat mash. It's a meat mash. But I think Tuivasa has more experience, and my money is on the fact that he hits with more accuracy and with more power. And I might be wrong. How much does he weigh? Because he's just one of those. Yeah,
he's close to that limit too, but he's definitely a leaner version than he was when he made his UFC debut. He's also been hardened by the fact that he started 3-0 in the UFC, then lost 3 in a row, and now he's won a couple. But you're right in terms of like the potential for fatality. I shouldn't say that, but with his power, I mean, Tai Tuivasa literally crumbles these men, and he's a layered striker. He likes to kick legs. Most of the sharps that I've talked to like Tai Tuivasa. But I will say, man, right? Greg Hardy, to your point, super athlete, like he truly is. People just don't understand what type of freak athlete they're dealing with. And heaven forbid people give him credit for trying to do this, right? Like he's so humble in this.
He's been fighting for 10 minutes. You got to give the guy credit.
That's the rub. He's a rookie. He made his pro debut in 2018. So we see him as a humble guy. People obviously can't forget his past, but he's a terrific athlete. And eventually, if he gets it, he could be a real problem. But it's a crossroads fight for both guys. Like if either one of these guys is going to, get top 5 and maybe get into a title eliminator situation, this is a must win. So big fight.
Yeah. The biggest problem that I see is I don't know. Greg Hardy just doesn't have the grappling. With heavyweights, if they can stay on their feet and if they have good takedown defense, they can be okay in the clinch. But with some of those Russian players, those Russian Greco and Sambo players, it's hard to stay off your back. It's hard not to get taken down. I don't know. My feeling is the UFC put these guys together because their wrestling or their grappling will neutralize. But if I had to guess, I would imagine Tuivasa has more experience with grappling. But I think they're sluggers. Do you have any insight on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. Tai Tuivasa did go to the American Kickboxing Academy in San Jose to try to sort of round out his game, and he has shown more comfortability down there. But Greg Hardy did talk a lot about sort of the grappling nuances and trying to pick up the little things. He did have some developmental time for the first time in a long time, 6 or 7 months between fights. So I'm trying to give Hardy the benefit of the doubt, but he's making mistakes because he's tired. So I don't know.
I'm pretty sure I'm remembering this correctly, but didn't Greg Hardy have the nuts to get in there and fight Volkov on short notice? I mean, you talk about somebody jumping into the wolves, but I mean, to do that also.
Make no mistake, you're talking about a warrior. Greg Hardy is just, it seems like he's only the most comfortable when he's in battle.
He went all 3 rounds with that guy, didn't he?
Yeah,
Thanks.
no, and challenged him at times. There's no doubt about it. By the way, we never got to the bottom of that whole inhaler gate, right? Like when an athlete can actually use an inhaler, like can Daniel Cormier use an inhaler in the locker room, but like not between rounds? Like I know everybody wants to pile on this guy, got DQ'd for an illegal knee in his debut, then the fucking inhaler, but like we still don't know when you can use an inhaler and when you can't. So
is it a fucking coincidence that yesterday Nevada State Athletic Commission announces there's no more punishable marijuana offenses, correct? And we also get a Nick Diaz, Robbie Lawler announcement that's rumored to happen.
Oh boy.
On the same day. That can't be a coincidence.
That's crazy.
Big day for weed.
Big day for weed.
Big day for weed. But John, with everything you know about these two men, who's older, by the way?
Hardy's got to be.
It's got to be Greg Hardy.
I got it right here.
I mean, he was in the NFL for years and years before you.
Hardy, younger than you think, 32. Tuivasa, 28.
Gotcha.
I mean, that's not a big difference. That's the prime.
Right.
You know, Hardy's taken a lot of punishment just on the field, I'm sure, but I don't see it. I actually don't see it in his body. I don't see it in his movement.
Right.
So, you know, this is if this goes, I got Tuivasa. The smart money's on him for the most part. I just feel like he probably edges Hardy out in grappling. He's got all the same power or more power. He seems to be more experienced. He's clearly not as good a natural athlete as someone like Hardy because you got to give his NFL. But you know, by the way, MMA and boxing and things like that, they don't care that much about your football career. I mean,
it's true.
They just don't, man.
But
he was special. He was a special NFL player.
Right. I mean, Tai Tuivasa had a nice rugby career, right? But Greg Hardy, had he sustained, I mean, there was one year where you guys know, he was just an absolute monster.
Where's your money, John? Sorry, Tom.
Well, my money obviously has to be in my pocket, man. It's going to be great the day I retire. I'm going to bet on every goddamn fight for the rest of my life.
Yeah, you can't say, but I'm purposely ignorant here. I'm going to put my money. I'm putting money down on these fights. So I don't know how much you can say, but John, if I'm going, I got 10 grand and I'm putting it down on Tuivasa. Are you stopping me at the door?
That's a good way to put it, Tom. You want to get in here before I respond?
Yeah. Let me rephrase that in a way that I think. Do you think, because I think the under 2.5 at minus, what was it at? Minus 145. Yeah. You think that is fairly priced? Because I think if Greg Hardy has success, he wants to get him out there quick and he wants to do it standing. And if Greg Hardy does win and he does get tired and his cardio does abandon him and Tai Tuivasa sees that as a path of victory, I also don't see that happening late in the second round. I would think that under 2.5 would be a way wider favorite margin to bet on. So do you think that that's fairly priced, that cheap?
I like under 2.5 rounds. Yes, I do. I think that's a proposition worth playing. And I will say to you guys, right, I'm trying to give you insight as best I can. I asked Greg Hardy, like, hey man, like you got really fast hands and a lot of power. Why not just go out there and be a 1-round fighter? Try to knock his fucking head off. And if you gas in round 2, that happened in your last fight anyway. So I think, and he said, Bryan,
did you say that?
Watch the whole take out videos.
I stopped it. I stopped it before I said that last part, but he sort of paused and said, that's an interesting conversation, because you don't think a part of him just wants to go in there Street Fighter style and just try to knock a man's head off, but he has to be disciplined,
Yeah. The question is his cardio, he's had 8 months. Is his cardio better?
I honestly, and therein lies the answer to probably the fight. I don't know.
Do we have any idea how much he weighs right now? That's for tomorrow.
All he said was that he was the slimmest he's ever been. And I've been watching him work hard. Every time I've been outside bearing the heat, he's been out there. So
really?
Yeah. I have a video on my phone. I'll text it to you after the show.
Okay, perfect.
He doesn't know I took it. It was out my hotel room window.
So do you think these odds are fair?
I do think the fight is properly priced. I would say, because now as we sit here about 48 hours out, I've talked to so many individuals and not one of them is picking Greg Hardy. Actually, I stand corrected. One handicapper texted me a play on Greg Hardy. But if 90% of people I'm talking to are picking Tai Tuivasa and the line hasn't moved, then maybe he should be closer to minus 160, minus 175. But I think it's properly priced.
Yeah, I was shocked on Bovada that the first round knockout prop bet for Greg Hardy is plus 650. And if you think he's going to get him out of there, that I would assume that's where you're leaning. But that is an insane price on that prop. If you are going Greg Hardy, like you said, most people are not, is what it seems. But
it's really hard to hurt Samoans.
Great point.
I was going to say, what's the price on Tuivasa by first round knockout. I think that might be juicy to some
I can
people.
get it for you really quick.
You know, the one thing I will say is that people don't realize when you have an athlete like Greg Hardy, their learning curve is so different than regular people. And there's a tendency to think you're going to see the same Greg Hardy that you saw 8 months ago. But when you have, it's like the Yoel Romero thing. Yoel Romero, you know, that guy became the striker and the fighter he was. And remember, he was world champion wrestler, beat Cael Sanderson. You're talking about a man who's been watching the human body move for his whole life. So making the transition from wrestling to boxing for him and MMA wasn't what it would be for most people. And there are some athletes who have a learning curve and frankly a fight IQ because they love it so much, because it's where they belong, it's where they want to be. You see, there are athletes. Brendan Schaub used to say he was an athlete who fought, and then there are fighters, and sometimes you have an athlete who's just as much a fighter as he is an athlete.
Yep.
And that's where I put Greg Hardy. That's a very rare combination. So if he's down at American Top Team, one of the hard things for heavyweights this big is finding viable training partners, by the way. That's one of the biggest problems they all have. And sorry, Tom, I know you're going to get to what his knockout odds are, but you know, that's something that I think can surprise people. When a learning curve and a fight IQ or just a sports IQ, you're talking about a competitor who loves being in that cage. That's a different dude, man. It's a different dude. So that's all I'm going to say. I don't know where the money goes, but what are the odds on that?
It's plus 350 for Tai Tuivasa in round 1 KO.
Yeah.
It's a great price.
No, but I think you hit on a lot of truths there with Greg Hardy, and I think we're going to get a lot of answers, you know, on Saturday.
Yeah,
I can't wait. All right, Tom, what are you going to do? You going to put your money on Tuivasa?
If right now, I know we're going to make picks at the end of the show, and I'm going to put money down on Bovada this weekend on whatever we decide. I'm definitely going to put the money where the mouth is on the show, but I'm leaning towards the under 2.5 for sure at minus 145. I just can't really pass. I don't see for either way. I think the path of victory is going to be quicker than 3 rounds. I mean, heavyweights, you never know, especially if they both. I don't see Tai Tuivasa getting dead tired, but if they both do, you could see it kind of grinding 2 or 3 rounds, because that will I mean, Derek Lewis and Francis Ngannou with a fucking decision, you know, if that's an exception there.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I'm a bad gambler. This is the first time I'm going to start gambling, and I'm a bad gambler because I just find myself being drawn to Greg Hardy. It's a sexy option. It's a sexy option, man. It's a sexy, and I know you guys, the two of you guys are smarter and you're patient and you sit in the cut and you're being quiet, John, but I know your money's on Tuivasa. That's what I'm feeling. And that's why I'm the guy that loses all his fucking money. But
well, hey man, let me give you one piece of general advice. Okay. You're betting the number and not the fighter. And I'm sure when we get to Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier, I'll lean into this a little bit more. Right.
Okay.
But when I see plus 108 next to Conor McGregor, right, I'm betting the number, right? And I had to pay minus 300 to get Conor in January, right? So that's juicy to me. That doesn't mean I think he's going to win.
Because you're not going to lose as much money if you make a big, okay.
So try to think about number first, fighter second when you're capping, my man.
Number first, fighter second.
Learn
okay, that's good advice. All right, let's move on to this Gilbert Burns.
Wonder Boy, man. This is a fight I'm most excited for, I have to say.
Yeah.
Well,
all right.
I'm excited about Poirier too, but
for sure. So looking at the odds here, we got on Bovada, we got Wonder Boy at minus 170 today, with Gilbert Burns at plus 140 coming in as the underdog. And then on the over 2.5, we got minus 155 favored, and under 2.5 rounds, we got plus 120.
Very interesting. So Stephen Wonderboy Thompson at times during fight week could be had, I think, as low as minus 150. So you do want to kind of shop a price a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. Like I've seen variances in some books where Wonderboy was as high as minus 186. Wow. And then you see him go down to minus 155. If you like that fighter, you need to plunge at that point in time. It stands to reason that Wonderboy at 38 years old is in the best shape of his life. He is singularly in this division with respect to Kamaru Usman, the most pain in the ass a guy to prepare for. If you talk to Tyron Woodley, and we talked to Gilbert Burns this week, he brought in Raymond Daniels, decorated kickboxer. And he said for the first week to 10 days, it was very frustrating, right? Just, you couldn't get inside at all. Couldn't get anything
all that distance.
Yeah. I think Gilbert Burns needs a floor fight. I mean, he's in outstanding shape. He never leaves any stone unturned. You don't have to doubt Gilbert Burns' preparation. The question is, as a little bit of an undersized welterweight, can he get this fight to the ground and sort of execute his game plan? Because time goes quickly in a 15-minute fight. You don't dick around with Wonderboy on the feet before you know it, the first round's gone and you're chasing.
And an interesting thing here, shout out to Joe Osborne. I know you love Joe Osborne, but one thing that I heard him point out, which is a great stat, is Wonder Boy, 7 of his last 8 fights went to a decision, with 5 of those being 5-round fights.
Oh, God. The thing is, there are a couple things. One, I think is, it's like the Lyoto Machida syndrome. It's very hard to find training sparring partners that can mimic that style. And a lot of guys will come in and try to mimic that style, and they'll be at the same height. But you're talking about Wonder Boy Thompson, who has been, I think, literally, he had his first like Taekwondo lesson when he was 3 years old.
Right.
So, his understanding of that distance, that space, and now, of course, with his wrestling, his great takedown defense. But, I don't know. I don't know. Because here's the thing. Because he went the distance, Gilbert Burns, with his explosion, if he touches you right, and his jiu-jitsu is stupid, and he's also crazy strong. So once he closes distance, and people say, well, what if he can't? He can close that distance.
Yeah.
You can absorb that side kick. I mean, and it's easier said than done, but if anybody can do it, it's Gilbert Burns.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of truth there. And I think he's got to be really good and smart in transition. If he does land that power shot, having the instincts to maybe not pursue the knockdown, but to immediately transition the fight to the ground and try to choke him out from there. I think all of the little transitions are going to be key in the fight. But my amateur statement on the fight is like, dude, forget bringing in Raymond Daniels, right? Like, you can't dick around with this guy on the feet. You just can't do it. And, I talked to Wonder Boy's wrestling coach, Steve Davini, today, and he said, with respect to Raymond Daniels, like, nobody's simulating Stephen Wonder Boy Thompson. And it would be so interesting if he could beat Gilbert Burns to see how he'd match up with Kamaru Usman, is a nightmare for everybody. But nobody really has solved this Wonder Boy problem, right? You have the outlier, the Anthony Showtime Pettis knockout, and Gilbert Burns certainly has twice that type of power. But for the most part, man, even when guys have beat him, it's really been a hard night at the office.
And in regards to Raymond Daniels, I actually heard Wonder Boy on a podcast. He's like, 4 or 5 of my last opponents have brought Raymond Daniels in. He's like, I want to start getting a cut of this guy's commission whenever they're paying him to train with him. He's like, give me a cut. Also, Wonder Boy and Gilbert Burns, could there be 2 more likable motherfuckers in a fight? Like, you don't want to pull against either one of these guys.
Great guys.
It's almost too much niceness, right? I'm an identical twin, and when we were growing up, like, the upperclassmen would call him good and me bad. And I wasn't even like a mean dude, right? But these guys are just so goddamn nice. Like, I tried to sort of get some anger out of Thompson. I was like, dude, this media grind's got to be wearing on you, nothing.
Yeah. Nothing.
Geniality.
Are they both really healthy without giving up too much? Do they seem really healthy? There are all these little nagging injuries that play a factor. And that's got to be, you're talking to yourself the right way. You're hesitant. You're guarding one side of your body. Those are the things that's what I always say about athletes on this level. That's awesome. You were great in high school. That's awesome that you're really great in the gym.
Yeah.
It's the guys that show up. They've cut weight, nightmare, and they've cut weight and they're injured, and they put all that shit behind them and they step in and they perform. Right. And that's really what it's about. Like, it's one thing to play great football. It's another thing to play great football when you can't bend your knee, which is what these guys do, right?
Yeah.
So,
and you're right too that few of these men and women come in at 100%. Maybe the average is probably like 85%. It seemed like Ryan Hall sort of made some comments this week about that very reality. But yeah, man, it's just hard for us to glean that much from the fighter meetings. Like, I will tell you, we had one athlete who came in this week, and one of our producers sort of texted like, dude, he looks like he has all these fresh cuts. Now, I can't tell you who that fighter is. And he certainly put us more at ease than we were with the visual. But, you see a fighter, it's like, dude, did you get fucking smoked in sparring like 3 days ago? Like,
right.
So
right.
Yeah, not ideal.
It's like Nate Diaz. You'll see him after sparring. You're like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
But both very durable. I don't know. It's interesting. My money again, Gilbert Burns. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome in every way. But I have to, if my smart money is also on the guy that didn't lose, that didn't just lose. Yeah. Because in some ways people say, well, now he's going to prove himself and stuff, but it's a lot of energy to talk to yourself into a good space after you take a loss like that. That loss was devastating for Gilbert Burns. It was fucking devastating, man. And the reason it was devastating, in my opinion, again, all due respect to that guy, because I love him, is that I feel like he realized he probably can't beat Usman, at least not in the next little while. Sometimes a dude's got your fucking number. Remember when Cain Velasquez beat Brock Lesnar, and you see Brock Lesnar, there was just a still picture and you could see him sitting there. And I swear to God, what happened in that fight was Brock Lesnar went, oh, that guy can box my face off, and I don't know what to do in that situation. I don't know what to do because that's a puzzle I can't solve because I don't have enough time. It's just that guy's too far ahead as a striker. Right.
So ridiculousness. Last year, Cain Velasquez came to the. My daughters watched this, so they came to the WWE. Cain Velasquez did, and Brock Lesnar beat him in 30 seconds by Kimura, and they tried to paint that as like he got revenge for the MMA fight, like that was the storyline. Yeah. All right, keep going.
Well, no, but that is a very serious thing, and I'm not saying that Gilbert Burns can't get over that, but Gilbert Burns has got to talk himself out of that. You know, a huge part of success in anything is learning how to talk to yourself. Learning how to manage your psyche. And I'm going to be very curious to see how that plays into this fight. So
you're not overstating the devastation from that fight at all. And it's twofold, right? It's the devastation of the loss, but to your point, like, how am I going to close that gap? And yes, he landed some right hands early on, but even his biggest shot of the fight, Kamaru posted, it wasn't like a true knockdown per se. So I think you're right about a lot of those things. I think Gilbert is as special mentally as he is physically. So I don't so much worry about that. It's more about this pain in the ass opponent. If I'm being
can you get
real,
close to him? Yeah.
This puzzle.
But it's not that Gilbert can't do it. I mean, I know his coaches exceedingly well, and they really do put in a lot of the right work. But I think Gilbert's pretty encouraged 5 weeks or so with Raymond Daniels as to where he was able to get. But again, you're talking about a lifetime of repetitions trying to learn a style that just doesn't exist elsewhere in the UFC. So I think
it's in mind too. Wouldn't you say, John, that like even if Gilbert closes distance, I mean, Wonderboy's really hard to get to the ground, man. His takedown defense is crazy. And even if you get him to the ground, ask Tyron Woodley. Even if you get him in a crazy guillotine and stuff, you still got problems. Now, and Gilbert is more jiu-jitsu than he is grappling, I believe, more jiu-jitsu than he is wrestling. Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Yeah.
So there are so just because Gilbert closes distance doesn't mean that he's necessarily even at an advantage. That's how I look at it.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about Gilbert Burns is that he is a truly world-class jiu-jitsu player, right? You could put him on a list of 5 to 10 individuals in terms of the most decorated jiu-jitsu players to come into the UFC. So there's an element to his game that Wonderboy's not going to be able to stop if it's the right storm of stunned on the feet, on the ground, in a bad position. I mean, there are levels to this jiu-jitsu
and crazy explosion. I mean, he can explode into you. He can hit. Right. I think he hits harder than Wonderboy.
Yeah, I would probably say that. I mean, he's not necessarily the 8-limbed guy that Wonderboy is, but he's also in between weight classes a little bit, right? And Jorge Masvidal was the first person to bring that up, and it kind of resonated with me. Gilbert Burns, I'm glad he's not cutting to 55 anymore. But
he's so thick, dude. He's so thick.
Oh, the fucking neck, bro.
He's so thick. But the fact that he could even contemplate 55 I can't believe he gets down to 70. It makes no sense.
I'm looking at, I think the reach advantage is 4 inches. Gilbert will be 35 in 10 days. I mean, all these things factor into the cap, right? Age, reach. Yeah. There are a lot of handicappers who just start with those elements, right? They start with the goddamn tail of the tape. But yeah, it's a fascinating co-main event. And I think Gilbert's going to go for it early, but I think he needs to kind of pursue a floor fight at all costs.
Yeah, I see this going with Wonderboy. In my head, I see him finding a way, getting into a groove, and coasting to a decision. That's my opinion. I think that those odds are really fair for the over 2.5 rounds, regardless. What were you saying, Brian?
Who's the better athlete, gun to your head?
So athlete's interesting, right? When I see my man DC swinging a golf club, right? But no, I mean, there are a lot of these guys. I love you, Danny, but there are a lot of these men and women who, if you put them at a free throw line, would look real silly shooting a free throw. So I feel like some of the stick and ball sports are a good indicator. I really don't fucking know the answer to that question. I really don't know. My lean is Gilbert Burns, but I really don't know.
So what's your final take on these odds?
For me?
Yeah.
I think it's properly priced. I would certainly be patient and wait and see where the money goes. And, but I think it's properly priced. I wouldn't start messing with the propositions because I could honestly see a finish and I could very easily see it going the distance, but properly priced.
I love it. Finally, Jon Anik. How long have you been talking today, first of all?
So we got like 3 more media hits after you guys, but yeah, it's a lot of talking. It's a lot of talking, but it's warm up. It's good. This is good for me.
You're good. You're good at what you do, my friend.
Oh, thanks.
You're very good at what you do. Let's hold on. Let me see this.
Made it on the Rushmore broadcasters.
What is this? This continues improving updates.
I'll take that.
Tomorrow.
I'll take that.
Yeah, man. So John, main event. We'll get you out of here.
Yeah, Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier. So we got Conor McGregor on Bovada today, roughhousefriday.net/bet. We have that fight at plus 100, even money right now for Conor McGregor on Bovada. And we got Dustin Poirier at minus 120 as the slight favorite.
You see that, Bri? The odds are already getting worse if you want that Conor McGregor side, right? So here's the thing.
Wow.
They went 7 years between fights, and now they're going 6 or 7 months between fights. I think Dustin has drawn an immeasurable amount of confidence from what happened in January, but he's also drawing a lot of confidence from the UFC body of work that he has been at this the whole time. There has been no dip in the developmental time, right? 11 UFC lightweight wins compared to just 1 lightweight win for Conor McGregor. If you're asking me like which fighter needs to be more perfect to win, it's Conor McGregor. I think Dustin Poirier has more paths to victory. But round 1 of the meeting in January was Conor McGregor's. And there is a special quality to Conor that is just unmistakable. Would I be surprised if Conor, landed a head kick and followed up with some punches and knocked Dustin out in 90 seconds? Not at all, right? But I do believe Dustin Poirier deserves the distinction as the favorite. I just think from a numbers perspective, given what you've had to pay to get Conor McGregor in the past, there are going to be a lot of people, not just MMA fans, but sharp type people who are going to look at Conor at plus money and unload.
Yeah, I think the only opportunities you've ever had to get Conor at plus money would have been against Khabib and against Floyd Mayweather, obviously, which are the only 2 times that he was priced as the underdog, if I'm correct.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I think for me, if this fight goes past 3 rounds, it's Dustin Poirier.
I agree.
Yep.
If Conor's going to win this fight, he wins it in the first 2 rounds. Here's the thing about Dustin Poirier, a couple things. Number 1, if you ask the guys at American Top Team, they will tell you that the best striker in that gym, and this is saying a fuckload, they'll tell you straight up, the best striker in that gym is a guy named Dustin Poirier. Okay. And here's the other thing about Dustin. Dustin walks, and I hope I'm not spilling beans, but Dustin walks at least 180.
He's huge.
He's a big boy.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. He walks, his frame, he's thicker. And it ain't fat. And
right.
and Conor walks at 170. I don't care what anybody says. He's awesome. He looks great, but that's a significant difference.
Yeah.
Dustin's frame is just bigger. And if Conor hits with more volume, Dustin hits with more power. I don't think there's any doubt about that. That dude can hit so fucking hard. So if Conor's going to get into this boxing thing, and he's so good, and frankly, he's astonishingly good. Like Conor astonishes me with his ability to kind of but if you watch the way Dustin was checking him with that hook, every time he'd throw an uppercut, so he'd bop, bop, throw 1, 2, and then dip in and throw the right, or it was like bop, bop. Yeah. He'd stay there and he dips and throws that uppercut.
Yeah.
What Dustin would do is he'd throw he threw a right hook. He would catch him with that right hook. So he knew how to counter that, man. He is so good, and he can stand nose to nose and in the pocket. Again, here's the thing. Conor, fight IQ, high, very high IQ.
No.
And that guy can show up and he changes his game. He's a true champion. He changes his game plan.
Yeah.
Will he check those kicks? Yes. Will he kick back? Yes. I don't be surprised if you see Conor throwing low kicks. Don't be surprised if you see Conor checking kicks. The question is, does that then open him up top? And I don't think Conor's as good a wrestler as Dustin. I just don't. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, John, I came up with some notes last night. I'm going to fire these off. I know out of respect for your time, we got to get you out of here shortly. I want to get your take on these and then get your final opinion on the fight for us.
Cool.
But I did last night. It was my wife idea. Shout out Tara from Mix and Murder. But she had us watch the UFC 178, the first fight, embedded episodes.
Right.
The 257, I believe it was, second fight, embedded episodes, and both fights. And watching those back to back.
Wow.
So we did it last night. We skipped all the other fighter embedded parts, so it was pretty quick. First fight, one thing I noticed in that 1 minute of a fight, Dustin landed 7 low kicks in the 1 minute of the first fight. Clean.
Ouch.
None of them were checked. And
John, were you there for that fight? I can't remember.
Yes, I was. Yes, I didn't call it, but yeah.
Could you see that Conor was? Did he show anything when he was getting?
Are you talking 178, Tom?
Yes, 178.
Right.
Yep.
God, dude, my memory isn't good enough to go back to 2014. Yeah.
So he landed 7 leg kicks in that 1 minute, which is crazy to me. And none of them were checked. And another thing I noticed is Conor acknowledged every single one of them. Every time he got his leg kick, he acknowledged it heavily. I mean, he wore it. Obviously, he put him away very quickly after that. Second fight, he landed 7 in the first round. So it was definitely more spread out. I've heard Dustin say, he's like, leg kicks weren't in the game plan. I just hit him with a couple, and I'm like, I'm going to fucking do that again. But regardless, so there was that. And another huge difference. Obviously, Dustin was very in his head in that first fight. He hated Conor McGregor. Clearly said, I've never hated anyone more than this guy. Very angry. Conor was very jovial in those first embeddeds. Second one, what I noticed was wildly different. And the second embeddeds were very heavily on family. It was their kids were there every episode. Both of them were parents now, where neither one of them were in the first fight, and wildly more mature, both of them. I think that was a huge difference. And Dustin's ability, because he got hit some like heavily in that first round of the second fight, and his ability to stay calm and to stay poised and to come back and capitalize when Conor started to fade and his legs started to give out. And Dustin in that finishing sequence of the second fight was so fucking accurate. Everywhere Conor attempted to even think about going, Dustin was there. He was waiting on him.
Well, so Conor's, one of Conor's strengths was getting into your head with his talk. He's not doing that anymore.
Exactly.
And Dustin's poised. So that's a big weapon he used.
Huge difference here too is this is a full capacity crowd in Las Vegas, and Conor McGregor is going to have so much, there's going to be so much fucking energy in that place. I mean, people love Dustin Poirier too, but that's going to be a wildly different atmosphere than the last
fight. John, smart money. Are you liking these odds? These odds make sense?
Well, I do think that the crowd plays a role. This is a much more normal fight atmosphere for both guys. So I think it stands to reason that both guys could benefit from it. And I do want to say too, Bri, you're right in terms of like Dustin's ability to adapt and execute in there. Like he has all the skills, but I think his greatest asset is probably his ability to execute in there, right? Dustin Poirier has been a tremendous bet. If you have been riding him, you have the Michael Johnson knockout in Hidalgo, Texas, sort of an outlier in 2016, and then the loss to Khabib. But Dustin Poirier has continuously cashed at the window. So you're not getting the price plus 250 that you got in January. But most of these sharp people that I have spoken to are not just on the Dustin Poirier side, but they're firmly on that side. They believe Dustin's going to be able to navigate the first 7 minutes. And most of the sharps I talk to are betting Poirier this weekend rather heavily. So
it makes total sense. If there's anybody that can do it, if there's anybody that can shock the shit out of us, though, if there's anybody who can actually show up with a totally different game plan, it's Conor McGregor.
All right, another interesting little fact here. You could have got Amanda Nunes at plus 280 against Kat Zingano in that first Conor Dustin fight. All right, we're gonna get you out of here, John. We fucking appreciate you, man. We love you. Anik and Floria podcast. You got anything else you want to plug?
No, I appreciate the time, and I wish we could chop it up all day. But it's great to be with you boys, and I love the new platform. Congrats on the show, and hopefully we'll do it again. Maybe we'll do it one day when I'm unemployed and I can tell you who I'm betting.
Dude, we got a spot for you as a permanent resident.
Let's fucking come back whenever you want, by the way.
Let's
please.
Rock and roll.
Thank you guys.
John, you're a good man. I look forward to watching you on Saturday.
Thank you, my man. See you guys soon.
Enjoy it, man.
All right, Roughhouse Friday. Thanks, Jon Anik. It's great. Thanks, buddy. He's great.
He is fucking good, isn't he?
Yeah, he's awesome. And I like how tight-lipped he is. He can't say anything.
Yeah. I will say I consume a lot of Jon Anik talking over my time, because I do listen to Anik and Flory, and we've had him on my other podcasts and stuff like that. And I think that's the most open he's been about where he would put his money. I think we phrase things well to where he spilled a little bit more than he usually does. So that's good.
Yes.
On it.
Yes. On it, ladies and gentlemen.
This podcast is brought to you by On It Supplements. Right. You can go to onit.com. We'll go ahead and tell you up front. Use promo code Roughhouse. It gets 10% off all your supplements, 10% off of all that shit. You have anything to say about, Bryan?
Well, you're talking about the best supplements on planet Earth. You're talking about supplements that are held to the highest standard. You're talking about supplements. The owners, the people that started on it, would use the product every day. I know that for a fact. Saw it with my own eyes. Some of the more productive people that I know use their products. I use their products. I'm a huge fan of Shroom Tech. I'm a huge fan of that. I'm a huge fan of their protein powder sweetened with monk fruit that doesn't spike your insulin. I mean, they take every detail of your health into account, and they're always up to snuff, up to the literally, like, whether it's krill oil, there's a very deliberate reason why they source the way they do.
Yep.
And all you have to do is you can go to their website, you can look it all up. They will explain why they source those particular ingredients in that order. And if you like working out and you want to work out in your own home, they've got crazy workouts. They've got the best equipment. My home gym is full of Onnit stuff.
Yeah.
They've got the best home gym stuff you can find.
Yep.
Those workouts at the Onnit gym in Austin are some of the best of my life. They last 30 minutes and it's all you need. So Onnit.
Yeah, I drank some of this Alpha Brain Instant right before we did the podcast because this is a big brain show and it helps a lot.
Yeah.
That stuff's incredible. It also gives me wild dreams. I watched Ed Sheeran beat up Conor McGregor in a ladder match and Betty White was the referee.
That's impressive, dude.
Yeah,
That's
so I mean, your
impressive.
brain's firing off whenever you're in your REM cycle, everything. I mean, it's it works. It works.
I love that.
Go to onnit.com, use promo code Roughhouse for 10% off all supplements. That's ONNIT.com, promo code Roughhouse.
I'm excited.
Let's go. Look at this studio. Chris looking
like
more
Chris
handsome.
Weidman. Look at this. Yeah.
I don't know if he can hear us yet, but he's looking like a more handsome Fred Savage.
Hey, Chris Weidman. All right.
It says Chris is connecting to audio.
Can you hear us, Chris? Chris?
Here we go.
Yo, what's going on, guys?
What's up, man?
The great one. What's up, buddy? I'm so excited. I didn't know you were going to be able to do this. I didn't hear from you. So this is like, I'm very excited.
I'm just jumping in this party. Nobody was expecting me. I'm glad
you're always welcome.
He's
you're always
crashing the
welcome.
Zoom.
Let's go. I honestly forgot I was doing it too. I said yes to Lamagna this morning, and then I was just working out, and then in the sauna, and I was going through text messages, and all of a sudden I got an alert because I put it in my calendar. I'm like, oh shit, the show. And then,
dude, how you doing, brother?
So I'm a mess right now. This is the worst I've ever looked on in my podcast room.
Look,
with the light on me, trying to make me look as perfect as possible. This is the worst.
You're Chris Weidman. What are you talking about? You got a full head of hair. You couldn't look younger, by the way. So
there's a lot of gray hair in there.
By the way, I hear through the grapevine that you're already kind of working out, which is fucking nuts. I love it.
Yeah, I've been doing like everything, man. I've been trying to do everything, like boxing, not kickboxing. I did kick the bag a couple of times with a shin pad on just to see if I like.
You had to push it.
I just wanted to see if I had these flashbacks and just hit the floor and start crying. But I did it. I got through it, and I feel like I'm doing good. But I will say, it looks like I might have to be going in here to get another surgery. Any day now. I'm waiting for another CAT scan. I'm waiting for a 3D reconstruction CAT scan. And then once I get that, I'm going to have to like send that out to UFC and everybody, not like the UFC doctors and different doctors and see what everybody's thoughts on what I should be doing next as far as surgery.
Look, for what it's worth, and you probably talked about this way too much. So I'll only say this for what it's worth. It's such an ironic thing, but watching what you went through and then watching you handle it the way you have, to me, and I'm an old man, that was one of the more inspiring things to me. It sounds like lip service, but personally, I take a shitload of, strength from that and optimism from that. And, you've always set an amazing example, but that might've been the best example. When you're 95 years old and you're rocking chair, people are going to go to Chris Weidman because Chris Weidman's been through the fire. Chris Weidman's won. Chris Weidman's been to, he's been as low as it gets and as high as it gets. That's the dude I want to go for advice. That's the guy I want to hear from. And you've already done it. No matter what happens, God forbid you die tomorrow, you've lived almost a complete life in that sense. So that's what I say to you. And I really admire your grace and your faith and all of it. So,
and dude, Chris, I saw your new show. Is it Won't Back Down? Is the name of the new show?
Yes, sir. Won't Back Down.
The first episode where you had Anderson Silva on, that was some heavy shit. You were talking about dude, it's so good.
I got to watch that.
Yeah. So first of all, Bryan, thank you
Bringing
so much.
a buddy in.
That what you were just
we go.
Really nice. Of course. I'm pouring out my heart over here, and Longo pops up. Now we can't be serious.
The great Ray Longo. Hold Ray.
Longo,
Chris is talking.
Let me
Chris
see
is
what
talking.
Let me see what Longo thinks of this. So Bryan basically was saying that, and this is going to be weird for me to say, but I'm gonna give it a shot. That basically I am a guy who kind of I've seen the highest of highs, the lowest of lows. And I've got to the other side, and he feels inspired by it. And what's your thoughts on that? Do you feel inspired?
Well, listen, I think you're a person that could talk about Conor McGregor for sure. I do believe he's seen the highest of highs. When you win the championship, you defend it a couple of times. I mean, that's the highest of highs, right, for this sport. You know, and I'm not saying in life in general, but and then you lost a couple, so I think you felt the lowest of lows sometimes. So I think you're the perfect candidate.
It was a few, Ray.
Brian,
I don't like to say
Brian,
few either, but
it's an honor to be here with you, Brian. Forget this. Forget
More
it for
than
a
a
minute.
few.
I feel like I know you, Brian, but I know we never met before.
Yeah,
but,
right. I know.
Yeah,
Ray, I love hearing that. I've heard such great stories. Rogan does a great impression of you, and it's fantastic. And so you're such a mainstay and such a character in such a good way. So it's for me, it's an honor. I'm just excited. I got both you guys. I got
100%,
both you guys
100%.
on this podcast, dude. This is exciting.
I just hope we don't. Well, I hope we don't start talking over each other. So, but I do think Chris is the guy for that.
100%.
Yeah, 100%.
That's Longo, by the way.
You know, the guy's living in a 6,000 square foot house. He's paying huge taxes at one point. I mean, that's high for Long Island.
It was actually 9,000 square feet if you included the unfinished basement that I did all my gym.
Wow.
My gym was in there. It was too big of a house. I don't like it. I don't know how big your house is, but don't do that. Too big. If you forget something on one side of the house and you have to go back, it's just not fun. It's not fun.
You paid for it by punching people in the face. Very few people can say that. So congrats.
Oh, that's pretty crazy.
So guys, I'm excited because what I want to do with this podcast, I love talking about fighting, but I want to start putting my money, but smart money on fights. And I'm not going to do it without expertise. And I know that, you guys are both, I mean, there are a few people that know more about the fight game, certainly the MMA game, than both you guys. You've been in the fire and through the fire. So, what I want to do is break down really 3 fights, maybe 4, and just give people the best odds. And again, I'm just excited to have both you guys here. We got to do a regular podcast because I can just shoot the shit.
Wait, hang on, Brian. Have I not met you, Brian?
You never met me, buddy. You never.
Yeah,
met
that's
me.
crazy.
He did that to me too. I didn't come on here. I wasn't starstruck or anything. I just felt like we've hung out a bunch of times.
Yeah, no. But I think that's what I think the beauty of Brian is. He's that guy. I think he's just a great dude. You come across so authentic with Rogan. Even though I think they bust your balls too much, I'm definitely not happy about that. But
you know what though? You got to bust somebody's balls, and that was always my role. That's my role. It is what it is.
Coming from a spot of love, though, we know that for
sure. Always.
Do either of you guys bet on fights?
I slowed down.
Question, Tom. Tom, you can't ask 2 guys in the game that question.
How much did you wager?
I won a lot of money on him in silver, I'm going to say, but I don't bet a lot. He bets way more than me. But you know what the problem is, guys? I bet with my heart. I'm not the guy to break down fights because even if Wonder Boy was supposed to lose this weekend, I'm never betting against him. It's just who I am. I'd rather be wrong than, sell out like on a friend. And
I think there's been a couple times that I know that Longo has gone against somebody that I'm surprised he's going against.
100% no. That's
like when you
yeah, like
when you took Kevin Lee over Iaquinta that one time, that was crazy.
In 1,000 years.
Chris, full transparency.
That was crossing the line, Longo.
Full transparency, Chris. I lost a lot of fucking money on you and Anderson. I had no idea what was coming the first time. I was an idiot, and I put it all on Anderson Silva.
Yeah, bad move.
I've grown to love you since. I hated
but
you.
It wasn't. But my odds weren't like everyone thinks that was like the biggest upset of all time. Matt Serra really was.
Oh yeah.
Up there because did I just see you guys' armpit? Was that Stephen Lee's armpit in the background?
Yeah, you know what it is? For some reason my computer's not charging and it's low, but we're gonna try something.
This is a high quality podcast. What are you doing?
I know.
You see the equipment we're dealing with here, and then you come along like this.
That's all
this
right.
is horrible. I'm a computer illiterate, but
let's get into these. Let's get into these fights.
Yeah.
So I don't think that the Sean O'Malley fight is worth going into because I think Sean O'Malley is such a heavy favorite that this kid is a pro and a seasoned pro, but I just don't see him getting the job done with Sean O'Malley. He's just too unorthodox, too big. What do you guys think? Do you have a point of view on that fight at all?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. You could go first, Longo.
No, look, I was hoping for the Ricky Simon matchup. I think that would have been a better matchup. I think he's at a point now. I don't like the fight at all, just because he's taking the guy that's coming in from another organization who he should be head and shoulders above. So I expect him to win. O'Malley's super talented, but I would love to see him get tested at this point. And I think even for his own growth, I think that would help him out a lot. So this is just another fight.
He's been tested already. He has definitely been tested already. I think Sean. I think the UFC needs him to win, and I think they picked an opponent that they may be building it up, and they may get in our heads as if like Sean O'Malley could possibly lose. So it elevates his win when he wins. I just don't think he's losing. The UFC's it's just not happening. He's a star. He's a star, and he needs to win fights. Otherwise, he's not a star.
Here's a better question. Sean amazingly is not ranked. Wouldn't you put Sean O'Malley up in that's a stacked division, by the way, 135.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you put him in the top 7 at least?
I think so. Yeah. I don't know what they're doing. I think I think he's gonna get a big fight after this fight against anybody he wants, and it's gonna be a good matchup. It's gonna be a good matchup.
We discussed it the other day too. I don't think he's happy with his contract, and that becomes another problem. Like, guys don't feel like they want to take tough fights because they're not getting paid. And listen, as a business guy, you can't argue with that, so that's where it gets a little tricky, but that was never our model over here. We just fought anybody, just like Chris would have fought anybody to get to that title. It was hunger to the max. You know what I mean? He had to get out of his mother's basement, all the stories that go along with that. But this guy's, now they've had time to see certain people. And I think everybody wants to have the Conor McGregor, effect. Conor's a once in a lifetime kind of guy, man. What he did is unbelievable, the way he branded himself. But he took chances at the beginning, and he did have to win those fights. Huge chances. And Dana will always say when they wanted him to fight, he fought. I don't see that in O'Malley. And I think without that, you're never going to get to where Conor is. You have to take chances, and you have to prove yourself. That's what people love when you put yourself on the line and you come through, So
Right.
That's why I don't like this fight. I like it, but I don't. It's not going to move the needle for me.
But it is it will set up a huge fight for him. You realize that whether you like it or not, it's going to do it.
Well, every win, listen, we don't know who the UFC decides to get behind. Obviously, he's one of the guys we could guess now is that they're going to get behind. But, I still, I don't know. Dana's been doing this a long time. He knows what he's doing. Hey, by the way, how's it going, Tom? I was so starstruck with Bryan Callen. I didn't even say hello to you, so I was being a bit rude. But
he actually asked me a question before, and you interrupted, and you got ruined.
I'm excited. I'm excited.
It's nice to meet you. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're both here. You two should have your own podcast. I know you already started one. We got the Ray Longo Minute going on every week, but if y'all had a podcast, it would be seamless.
I don't think Longo can handle it. I'm gonna have to put him in his place.
Wait, Brian, you should go to the last podcast we did. It's up on. You'll love it because those guys in suits that you used to see in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
We talk all about that. You're gonna love it. You're gonna actually love it.
Oh yeah.
I can't wait.
Wait, are you from Brooklyn?
My mother's from Brooklyn, born and raised. The Sicilian side of my family is all born and raised in Bensonhurst.
All right, so. You got to watch not to just be promoting my podcast here, but Won't Back Down.
I will.
My last episode with Brooklyn legend Lou Neglia. This guy, he's 75 years old. He really was the trailblazer for kickboxing inside New York. And he's the one who started that Ring of Combat promotion that like all the best 80 fighters now have gone to the UFC from. But he happened to grow up in the 70s, 80s when the Gravesend, he lived in Gravesend where there was just murder. It was the epicenter of the mafia. Yeah. And he was an Italian kid in that. And one of his best friends is, really high up there. And he's just been surrounded by it. So we went through a lot of stories with that.
I can't wait.
Because he was a legitimate tough guy. And then you got these mafia dudes who are fronting like they're like super tough guys. Yeah. And like, how do you feel like there would be a natural beef there, but there wasn't. There was a lot of respect.
Yeah, it's got to be always a mutual respect there, especially for a guy who gets in there with his hands. Okay, let's get into Tuivasa. Let's get into Tuivasa and Greg Hardy.
Yeah, so I got Tai Tuivasa at -140, the favorite, with Greg Hardy at +115. Those are the Bovada odds. Go to roughhousefriday.net/bet. Bet with us on Bovada. But Greg Hardy coming in as the slight underdog. What do y'all think about that fight?
Hey, you can go first, Chris.
I think, man, that's a tough fight. That's 100%
a tough fight.
What's the odds on that?
You got -140 for Tai Tuivasa as the favorite, and then +115 underdog Greg Hardy.
I'm a sucker for the underdog. If I had to throw money on it, I'd throw someone Greg Hardy. He's a huge dude, good athlete, and he's getting better and better. Like people don't want to admit it, but he is becoming an MMA fighter and a dangerous one. And you can see the confidence grow in each one of his fights. And Tuivasa is very relaxed. He'll sit in the pocket and throw back, and he's very dangerous. But Greg Hardy is one of those guys. I think that he's going to get to the point where he's like a Francis Ngannou. Like one of his punches lands, and you're going out. So I think he has that type of power. And so I'm going to go with Greg Hardy.
Yeah, and I'm going to say the slogan on this fight is "Firstest with the mostest is the bestest." I think whoever gets hit first, because these guys are big bangers. Tuivasa is a great guy. We've met him a bunch of times. He's awesome with the shoeies. Yeah. He's just a good dude, very relaxed, like Chris said. But I do love the way they brought along Craig Hardy. They allowed him to grow. He's had some tough fights, and I'm going to go with Greg Hardy on this. I'm picking the underdog also.
That's nice to see, because we just talked to Jon Anik for about 45 minutes before we had you guys on, and we were talking about that fight. And we both stated that Greg Hardy is kind of a sexy pick with the plus money and all that shit. Like, we wanted to bet on him. We were trying to make a case for it. And you two, I think, just put me over the edge.
Well, he's such a special athlete. And I what I had said was that this is a man whose learning curve is so much steeper than he will pick things up faster than your average guy, or even really good athletes like Tuivasa. He's a very special athlete, and it's like the Ngannou thing, like you said. Like, guys like that pick things up so quickly, and so their learning curve is much what is the word, steeper or not as steep. It's like any of these guys. So that's, for me. You're looking at a guy who's been fighting now. Depending on how hard he's training, but he's at American Top Team. He's got 8 months now. You're going to see a different fighter than you did 8 months ago.
Yes,
that's what I think.
100%. I think they did the right thing with him. They gave him great fights at the beginning, allowed him to get his feet wet, and then he's had some good fights, man. So I think he's ready for this. And Tuivasa, he's just he's a great guy. He's very relaxed. He's going in there to fight, but sometimes he does find a way to lose. And I forget who he lost. I was in Australia with, and I love the guy, but he was in Australia, and I probably shouldn't even say this, but he got on the bus, Bryan, going, I just lost to a retard. I lost to a retard. I just lost to a retard. No, he's that guy. He's a funny dude.
He can't use the R word anymore, Longo. That's
it's Ray Longo.
He was quoting somebody. It's okay.
He's quoting. Ray Longo's allowed to do whatever he wants.
Listen, if I'm not canceled within the next 6 months, I'm disappointed. How's that?
Let's fucking go.
God bless. Now, here's the thing. Then let me ask you guys, why is Tuivasa a favorite here? What's the criteria? What do you think they're looking at?
I think experience. He's a more experienced fighter. You could tell Hardy goes out there. He's more of the green guy, So I think that's probably why.
I think it comes down. They just hate Greg Hardy. It's almost like Trump. Why do people? They just hate him. I mean, I don't know. They don't like him because of his backstory, and I think that's why. And Tuivasa, look, he's dangerous. We know he could throw. We know he throws hard. That's why I say whoever gets hit first in that fight is probably going to lose the fight, because those are big shots, and they will go
out with a jab, those guys.
Without a doubt. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you can get the under 2.5 rounds at -140 right now. It's pretty fucking cheap for under 2.5, and that seems like it should be automatic. It never is. It never is a lock, but that seems like that's the smartest bet on the.
Well, there's actually been times though that I will say I understand those odds though, because Hardy, there's been times where he's circling and he's not doing much either.
Yeah.
And Tuivasa is very relaxed. He's a very relaxed fighter. I do like that bet, but I'm just saying I do understand the other side of the token with that possibly going a little longer than you would expect for heavyweights, especially.
But
Chris,
2.5 rounds.
Do you train with heavyweights ever? What do you walk around at? Because I've seen you I saw you in LA one time at Fox. I don't know what the hell you're doing there, but I remember looking at you going, I said to my buddy, Chris Weidman is big. You look like you're at least 215.
Yeah, no, at least 215. I'm in shape. I'm actually lighter now because of the recovery, and I'm trying to keep my weight super low, so I'm on a strict diet. But usually I'm like 215 to I've got up to 235, being completely a complete fat ass. When I'm like in shape, decent shape at 215, and then get down to 205, week before the fight and make that cut. Yeah, but yeah, I train with a bunch of heavyweights. Yep.
And it's different, isn't it? I mean, there's a different consideration. Is there a different consideration when you fight at 85 or 205 than when you're fighting at heavyweight, in terms of if you get touched the wrong way by you can get knocked out with a jab, right?
Yeah, it's sometimes it pays to be like a little sloppy as a heavyweight, because just anything touches, it could be a good shot and end it for you. And that's why a lot of the heavyweights don't train as hard, because it's like, all right, why do I have to train so hard when it could just be one of these shots that put him out? Might as well just believe in myself.
Well, I love that your pick is Hardy, because that's where my money's at. So that's good. All right, let's move on. I know this is tough for you, Chris. We got Wonderboy Thompson. We got Gilbert Burns. Now, obviously,
are you going with Burns?
Look, I can't go with Burns. I can't go with Burns. But the reason I can't go with Burns is that even if Burns closes that distance, Wonderboy is a motherfucker in the clinch. He's got insane takedown defense. And by the way, even when you take him down, talk to Tyron Woodley, he's a pain in the ass there too. So I'm smart money's on Wonderboy. Gilbert he's incredibly explosive, but I'm more interested in your take on this. And try to be objective, please.
Oh yeah, completely. I mean, what do you think Gilbert Burns is going to do? What do you think his strategy in this fight's going to be? Do you think he's going across the octagon trying to knock him out, or trying to take him down?
You would think
My
so.
Because
feeling,
Wonder Boy has been knocked out by Anthony Pettis. He was dominating that fight, got knocked out. You know, we've seen the time when Woodley had dropped him.
Yeah.
So he knows that it's possible to drop him and hurt him. Does he just try to do that, or is he going for the takedowns? And go ahead.
So what I a lot of times it looks like Wonder Boy uses that front foot side kick as almost like a jab to keep you away.
Yeah.
You know, if anybody can stuff that jab, if anybody can take that jab, absorb it, close distance, grab his leg, run the pipe, take him down, whatever it might be, that's easier said than done. Or I know, I love how you're like, yeah, really run the pipe.
I'm impressed. Run the pipe.
I was a wrestler. I was a wrestler. Everybody calm down.
Yeah.
But I mean, and again, easier
I will
said
counter.
than done.
I will counter you on that, on the technique there, and how he's going to do it. But keep going.
Yeah, it's whatever it is. Either way, I can see him. I can see the strategy being like, look, he's looking to draw you in. He's a counter puncher. He's going to jab you. He's going to kick you in your hip. He's going to kick you in your legs. He's going to kick you in your stomach with that front foot side kick, which is no joke. Maybe a back kick. He's got that weird Taekwondo distance. Yeah. But you know, there are ways to catch angles and stuff those kicks, get behind him, get where you need to be, so you can close distance. And that guy hits hard when he's close to you. That guy is very comfortable on the ground. He's a monster on the ground. Now, if he can get him on the ground. So the strategy to me would be, don't stand and bang at least in the middle of you've got to figure out a way to stuff those shots. You got to figure out how to absorb whatever it is he's giving you and come in with your head low and then make it a dirty inside fight.
And then eventually take him to the ground. Yeah, no, I think
am
that's
I
good.
naive here? Yeah,
but is he able to, will he have the balls to go through that danger zone? Because when you're on the outside, Wonder Boy will just kind of chill with you a little bit. But if you want to win the fight, you're going to have to decide, I'm going to pressure this guy and get through the scary shit. Does he have the balls to go do that? And does he survive it? And if he survives it, he has to worry about his cardio not holding up, because just like you said, he's worried. He's seen Wonder Boy have success with getting back up to his feet and stopping takedowns. He's got one of the best takedown defense percentages in the UFC. Yeah. Not even just welterweight division. So how does he have the confidence his cardio is going to hold up when he's struggling to get these takedowns that he may never get? So I think that's going to be playing a big part in his mind. And I'm just curious on if he shows up for the fight and says, I am going to fucking do whatever it takes to get into Wonder Boy's face. I don't care what he throws at me. I don't care what he hits me with. I'm walking through it and I'm going to get to his body. I'm going to try to knock him out, try to get the takedown. If he has that mentality, that's a dangerous mentality. But I just don't know, after coming from after getting knocked out in his last fight too, if he's going to be able to hold up that mentality.
Yeah, and who's really gotten inside on Wonder Boy? You got to remember, I mean, he dissected Masvidal, who's a phenomenal fighter. Luque's a tough guy. He ran a train on him. I say it goes the same way to the Luque fight. That's where I'm going with this. And
really? Luque wasn't trying to really take him down, though. I'm just curious. Right. You think
I don't think Burns is going to have the opportunity. He's going to keep that fight in the center. He knows how to circle off the cage. He keeps that fight in the center. He's a handful for anybody, period. That's it. We see him in the gym. So this kid is good. The only thing he's got going against him, if there's any, is his age. He's just getting older and older. And that'll eventually, for that style.
Well, Gilbert Burns is 35 years old, isn't he? Yeah. Gilbert's up there too, 36.
But I will say, Wonder Boy, what is it? Longo, I mean, not Longo. Rogan has talked about, was it the teamers, the aging thing, the little cells inside your body that tell you really how old you are?
The telomeres.
Yeah, there you go.
The Taliban.
They're shorter.
He talks about the Taliban.
He is, come on, Wonder Boy is older than me. He looks way younger than me. He's moving around younger than me. It's different. He's on those karate mats every single day, hanging out with kids. He thinks he's a kid. He is not. He's not 38. He's more like a 26.
Right. I'm just saying, if there's anything, that would be the only thing, because his technique. So we were just there. So he looks. I just think on the center of the octagon, nobody's touched. We've never seen that. Woodley sat against the fence. He had to make it like a really boring fight and draw him in, and God bless him, he did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
everybody,
out in the center. I mean, Woodley's a stud wrestler. I mean, it's not going to be that easy for Burns.
And I feel like anybody who's gone against Wonder Boy, including me in sparring, you're kind of like a deer in headlights at first. When he's bouncing around, he's just keeping that distance. He's completely sideways. You think you could just kick his leg off and you completely miss, and he's darting in on you. It's a very weird feeling. If you're not used to that at all, when you step into that cage that night and it's such a big moment, and then this guy's just bouncing around, landing on his feet, he's high-fiving you. I mean, it gets in your head.
Yeah.
It gets in your head. It's hard to get yourself back into where
and you can't hate him no matter who you are. You can't dislike him. So throw that off the table of using that as a motivation, right? So he kind of rolls in with his nice guy stuff, and then next thing you know, hit him, you got a side kick in your stomach. Like you said, Brian,
Jesus.
it's not easy to break that range. It just, there's not many guys that could do what he could do.
No,
really
and by the way, and don't forget about that. He counter punches. He'll knock you out with a punch.
No, he's good.
Yeah, I think if Gilbert Burns goes in there with the idea to just walk him down and thinking he's going to knock him out, it's going to be a long fucking 15 minutes for Gilbert Burns.
Yeah, without it.
What else can he do? Though?
That's what Jeff Neal was trying to do.
Because I'll tell you, Tom, I'll tell you the other thing is he might go in there with that, but after he gets interrupted, like Chris says, the first 5 times, that shit changes. Then you're in a state of confusion. You switch up what you were training for, and then you run into more trouble. So I see Wonder Boy. I see it like a Luque fight. I really do.
But
I agree.
Ray,
my money's definitely going on Wonder Boy at
Ray,
minus
Chris,
170.
there's got to be a way in. Everybody has an Achilles heel, and so I know you guys, but you guys aren't about to tell me how you would coach, Gilbert Burns. That's not going to happen. But let me ask you this, Chris. You did spar with him. Did you guys go pretty hard, or was it friendly sparring? How did that work? I'm just.
Oh, it's always friendly but hard. With Wonder Boy, there's never like I'm trying to kill you mode. Really. I mean, I've done a couple things to him, and I kind of feel bad, which is rare. Like I remember one time he's over the gym, and this is like in the beginning. He was throwing kicks at me like Lyoto Machida did from the southpaw stance. I knew he was going to do it, either head kick or body kick. I know he's going to do it. And Longo was, and his dad knew like that's kind of what you have to do to emulate Machida for Weidman. So I know he's doing it, and I just had a program because Longo worked with me on it like a million times. As soon as he throws that kick, I'm gonna block it. I'm gonna sweep it through. I'm gonna leg kick the shit out of it. And I could not stop myself from doing it. The amount of hard leg kicks that I hit him with was insane. But I felt so bad after every one of my bad. But I was programmed. The poor guy was doing it to help me. It wasn't like his typical self. It was awful.
When he comes here, Brian, he is here to help, man. That guy is. I can't say enough nice things about that guy. He comes to help, and Chris will tell you, I'm always happy when he comes in. Because I can relate to him. I love the way he breaks stuff down. He can emulate anybody. He's really just a great guy to have in the gym. But so there were times are hard, but they were mostly, I think, respectful because they really like each other. But at the beginning, when they didn't know each other, it might have been a little different. But then, and Wonder Boy, I think that's what he brings to the table. He's not going to spar a guy that's a crazy man. He doesn't get nothing out of that. He'd rather fight the guy. But he's smart. So that's why I think he even looks as good as he does, and he's been able to last because he has the style, that allowed him to do that. You know what I mean? If you're a Joe Frazier and you got to keep getting in there and getting in there, you're going to take punishment. But he keeps you on the outside, man, and he very smart. So.
So you agree with these odds? Smart money is on Wonder Boy Thompson.
What's the odds on that fight?
He's minus 170. Wonder Boy is.
Wow, big favorite.
Yeah,
and this is against. I think Burns is ranked number 2 in the world.
Yep, and Burns is coming in at plus 140.
I really think this is a great matchup for Wonder Boy. I really do.
I think the only way he loses, Chris, is if it's one of those Pettis things, where
he was winning that entire fight.
He was winning that entire fight against Anthony Pettis. He was beating Masvidal. He beat the guys he's fought are similar to this guy, but just say standing up wise. Forget about the ground for now. And I think he's got he could do this shit all day long. Brian, he'll do this shit in his sleep. I'm telling you. Anybody can get caught. Anybody can get caught, but.
Yep.
He's my daughter's daughter's favorite fighter. She'll listen to fucking Wonder Boy by Tenacious D on repeat.
Really?
Loves it.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on to the final fight. Poirier Conor. This is the big one. Let me get your take on this.
So I guess I'll stick with my original thoughts on this have been, and I broke it down for ESPN. I had to watch their actual first and second fight, and the second fight we dove in pretty deep. And I think Dustin Poirier is going to win only because I just think he has more ways to win. He could knock him out. He could TKO him. He could submit him. He could win by decision, split decision. He could win every possible way. I think Conor, the only way he wins is by putting him to sleep. He has to actually put Poirier out to sleep in order for him to win. I think there's a chance that he could do that, definitely. But in the last fight, just watching how he came into the octagon, he wasn't as he wasn't owning the octagon like he usually does. And it was just a different guy. And I know now this week he's starting to act as if there's hate there and there's a different Conor coming, and there may be. But if you're going by the last fight and you're looking at it just from a technical aspect, he just wasn't able to mix it up the way that Poirier was able to mix it up but
he's gonna have to neutralize those low kicks. And what I'm interested in is after your first fight with Anderson Silva, I heard your team said those low kicks were a problem. So we have to figure out how to check them. And you went back to the drawing board and you learned how to check those kicks.
Yeah,
and obviously we know how that went, but you trained for that. How long did it take you to pick up that? That's a hard technique. It wasn't something that you necessarily had done a lot of. How long did it take you before that was second nature?
To be honest, we always worked on checking kicks, but it wasn't like at the forefront of my mind all the time. You know, guys would try to kick me. I'd check kicks pretty good. No, I think I always had a good vision for kicks, and I always check kicks pretty good. But when we were leading into that second fight, because honestly, the only thing that he crushed me with was leg kicks. My leg was killing me for like 3 weeks after that fight. Was all right. Anytime I was doing shadow boxing, there was just way more of me, even like as a warm up, with me picking up my leg and getting ready to check a leg kick, because we knew that was going to be a problem, and I didn't want that to be a problem.
So Conor's probably doing that, and we know he has Conor has got a very high fight IQ. So for me, I'm not going to be surprised if he looks very different in this fight. If he does check those leg kicks, and he somehow can neutralize those low kicks, is Conor a better boxer than Poirier when they're in the pocket like that? Is that, or is it just hard to even say that?
You want to go? You want me to go?
Yeah, I'll go. I mean, that's hard to say that. I mean, I think, look, technically they can each knock each other out. I think obviously that's been proven. So I have to go with desire on this. Does he still have the desire to win this fight? You know, I mean, it's not, you know, and Chris could attest to this, because like, again, we had the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. Can you get that hunger like he had 7 years ago or 5 years ago? And that's where I'm going with this, because technically I think he can beat him. Boxing wise, it's a different style. Nobody has a better slip and rip with the left hand or a good check hook than Conor. He does that as good as anybody I've ever seen. But that's about it, though. I don't think he's got much more after that. He's got
that left hand, yeah.
He's got that left hand, which is vicious. You take that left hand out of the equation, how does he beat you? So if I'm training Dustin, I go, I don't care how you lose this fight, you're not losing it with the left hand. He's going to beat you with the right hand. Yeah. That's number one. I would go in with that philosophy. And he's with Howard Davis's kid, who that kid Davis is a great boxing trainer. He really comes from great stock. And I think they were well prepared for him. He did get hit. I think he might have got rattled maybe in the last fight a little bit, but it's going to take more than one punch. He's not going, I don't think that's going to be it. And to get that one punch off, he also has to get hit and expend his gas tank. And I think it comes down to cardio and again, the desire to win that fight. I'm just not sure. Yeah, Chris, you know how it is coming up, right? Like this guy would have walked through fire. That's why if you ever, I seen a guy, and first of all, with the leg kicks with Chris, he was a really quick study. So he could pick it up. Like he picked up everything. He didn't have a big learning curve since the first day he walked in the gym, but I never saw a guy pick up techniques, stand-up techniques as good as he did. You know what I mean? But then again, we always had his wrestling to fall back on and stuff like that. But
not because I was a great athlete like Francis Ngannou, just because I was super smart.
Yeah, exactly. To
that point on the leg kicks,
the Goodwill Hunting of MMA right here.
I rewatched both fights too, Chris. And one thing that I did notice that stood out a lot was even in the first fight where Conor put him out in a minute 20 or whatever it was, Dustin threw 7 low kicks in that 1 minute and landed every single one of them unchecked. And in the second fight, obviously, he didn't check any of those kicks, and he ate every single one of them. That's a 7-year gap. Now, Conor knocked him out in the first round in the first fight, so I don't think that he walked away like, oh, I got to learn how to check these leg kicks, because it worked. He won the fight. So I don't know if he'd adjust differently.
Conor
after
has
this
so
one.
much weight on his in
yes.
a lot of fights. Conor had a lot of weight on his back foot. In that fight with Dustin, it was like all his weight was on his front foot.
Yeah.
It was just. Am I wrong about that?
That's what I think. I think that's
for so long.
No, but
I think that's the X factor in this fight is actually his stance.
I think the thing we're missing though on this, let me just interrupt real quick, Chris, sorry, is that, and I'd have to go back and look at the first fight, but there's a big difference between a leg kick and a calf kick.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. The calf kick is way harder to check than a leg kick. You know what I mean? So that's number one. We've never really seen anybody make an adjustment to the calf kick yet, I don't think, right? So that's number one. And he's always going to have that in his head, what that did to him. Like, did he lose that fight? Did he run out of gas, or did the pain of that kick make him second guess? Hey, you know what, man? I got $200 million in the bank, but I'm getting the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? We don't know.
Yeah,
in
the finishing sequence of that second fight when Dustin was so fucking accurate in that finishing. I mean, he was just everywhere he thought about going. But it looked like Conor's legs. It looked like he literally was like, I have nowhere to go. Like, this front leg is not responding to what I want to do, and Dustin's finding everywhere I tried to move my head.
Chris, I think when you were absorbing those leg kicks from Anderson in the first fight, Did you feel it, or was adrenaline so high you didn't feel it?
No, leg kicks are the one thing that you feel during the fight. Leg kicks, you feel every
Uriah
single one
Faber,
of them.
Uriah Faber said he felt like he was going to faint when
Oh,
Jose
yeah.
Aldo.
You
was
you don't feel anything. You don't feel punches or elbows or anything. Nothing bothers you like that. But leg kicks, they're just brutal. It's insane. But one thing with Conor, I think the way, in my opinion, to stop the calf kicks is movement and having good range.
Yeah.
You know, and confusing your opponent. And Conor, I think, has all the tools to do that. He used to, for a lot of his fights that he won, if you look at Jose Aldo and a few others, he was in a karate stance, almost like a Wonder Boy, where he's jumping, he's kind of bouncing up and down both feet at the same time, just hopping there and kind of drawing people in. You know, he's going to slide back easier on somebody trying to crash in. He's going to hit him with that too. That's why he was so good with that slip and rip. He wasn't doing that in this last fight. He was plodding forward like a boxer. I mean, he was getting ready to fight Pacquiao. He had a boxing stance, and he was ready to beat Poirier in boxing. And he figured Poirier, he's a boxer. He might try to take me down a little bit, but he wasn't really even thinking leg kicks. So he was in there to just slip, rip, and just beat the crap out of him boxing. And he might be better than boxing, but he wasn't ready for that takedown right from the get-go. He wasn't ready for all those calf kicks to feel that way, you know, and end the fight the way it did, really. He didn't see all this coming. He's going to come in now. I really think the first second of that fight, he's going to be bouncing on his toes. And if he could keep that up cardio-wise, I think it's going to be a tough night for Poirier. Because I think that's the way to beat Poirier and beat those calf kicks and even stop the wrestling, is that bouncing style. And he's got to kick with the kicker. He used to kick all the time, the spinning back kicks. And
he opened the first fight with 2 spinning back kicks.
He basically stunned Cowboy with a roundhouse kick. You know,
yeah. He opened the first fight with 2 spinning back head kicks. That was the first.
So I wouldn't be surprised if you see him moving around way more and better, and then kicking first, and then as the fight goes on, look for those punches. Yeah. I think that's his key to success here.
Yeah,
and
I say and if he's going to win, I think it's in the first round. I think the longer that fight goes, obviously, I believe it'll go to Dustin. I think he's by far the better conditioned guy. He can carry that weight. Seems like Conor, when he exerts a lot of energy, that if he doesn't get you out, you know, that causes a little bit of difficulty. Like, again, technically, he could 100% do it. There's no question. I'm going back to just mindset. I know he wants to do it, but I'll put Chris on the spot a little bit just to maybe make my point a little bit with this. When Chris fought Damian Maia, we get the call. He had to lose 30 pounds in 7 days.
God,
I mean, Bryan, I watched the guy almost die in the sauna. Seriously, almost die.
He was crying. Longo was
crying.
But
listen to this, man. But he's coming up, right? He don't give a fuck, Bryan. He's going to do anything it takes. Would you do that tomorrow if you got the call and you were healthy?
Me? No.
Now, I'm saying after you have all you have.
No.
You have.
No, that was the risk I had to take.
That's different. So,
desperation.
Brian,
desperation is very. When you're dying to get out of where the fuck you are. Listen, you're right.
You got to do crazy things to get where you want to go.
This is why I love Marvin Hagler. 14 title defenses. They said he never wavered on his training. Yeah. And 14 against killers, not easy fights. Killers.
You're right.
100% killers. Yeah. And this motherfucker, he just steady Eddie, man. You weren't breaking that guy. He never bought into anything. Nope. 14 title defenses.
The golden age.
So, can he do that? If he could do that, he wins the fight. I don't think he can.
Why can't he be? I would love to see Hagler fight Canelo. I would love to see that.
Hagler walks right through Canelo.
You think so?
And Canelo's looking pretty good, Longo.
Hagler was so fucking good.
Those guys, hey, Brian, go back, watch that Four Kings documentary. Look how good those guys were.
Oh, believe me, I have.
You don't see anything that resembles that today. Nothing. Period.
Which is crazy. That's like the one sport that the boxing really hasn't taken off to another level. Like if you look at wrestlers from the early 2000s or in the 90s and the 80s, there's no way they would be able to compete with a college wrestler today. It's just not happening.
That's good. That's
because most sports are like that, but boxing's kind of stayed. It's been a similar level, I think, depending on the weight classes since the beginning.
Brian, you were going to say something. What were you going to say? Because I think I know what you're going to say.
Well, just with wrestling, what happened was, it's very interesting because with wrestling, what happened was when the wall came down, you've got YouTube really. So you've got Russians and Turks and Dagestanis, and they're all sharing their secrets. They're here in the United States. Everybody it's kind of like this big melting pot. So it used to be that you were an American wrestler and there were certain techniques but then you go to the Olympics and the Russians would show up with some kind of a freestyle technique you hadn't seen before. And all of a sudden you were getting rolled and losing points. That doesn't happen as much anymore now. Everybody's sharing the secret. You can't keep your technique to yourself. himself. It's like when Khabib comes to AKA, people are picking up on what he's doing with those transitions, sambo throws, sambo trips, Greco, all that stuff. So that's probably why wrestling sort of became what it became. It's just exponentially gotten a lot better. So college wrestlers today are wrestling on a different level, I think, versus what they were.
Well, definitely, you're right. But Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, same thing. I know it's very new, but there's a lot of sports that are like that.
Yeah.
But I think boxing, these are inner city kids that people now have other choices and other ways of making money, which back then there was that desperation. That's why you can't beat that, man. When you have that type of focus and drive, and you got to get out. You know what I mean?
Bernard Hopkins was in jail. He had no other choice. Bernard Hopkins had one choice. Nobody talks about how impressive that guy is, by the way.
No, one of my favorite guys, Brian. I love that guy. Phenomenal boxer.
Being that good for that long in a division that required speed, that guy would take your whole game away. He would do things to you. But you're right, Ray. It's like desperation a lot of times, especially in the fight game, when you're that desperate, you'll do whatever it takes. If you're willing to die. Right. That's why when Israel Adesanya, I think he was fighting Kelvin Gastelum, and he said, I'm prepared. There's no problem here. I'm prepared to die.
The fourth going to the fifth round.
Woo! Damn, dude. I was like, this motherfucker. When I saw that, I just went, this is a whole. I think you have that too, Chris. I mean, you guys are different guys. You're different guys. UFC champion. All you got to say is, if you say to me, Olympic gold medal in wrestling or UFC champion, the conversation's fucking over. It's over. Especially different guy. Different guy.
Well, I think going into every fight, it goes through my mind. And I fight the best when I say that to myself a lot. Like I'm ready to die in there. Like I'm ready to do whatever it takes.
I know.
And that has to be your mindset. If you want to achieve big things, if you want to be a champion, you have to be ready to die. You have to be ready for the worst case situations. And it is what it is. You're doing what you love, and you're willing to sacrifice everything, even your own life, to accomplish it.
Well, I can't wait to see you back. Yeah. Go ahead, Ray. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I was having a drink with Bisbing one day. I think Aljo was fighting. We were in maybe New Mexico somewhere, but right in the middle of the conversation, he popped his eyeball out and went to hand it to me. And I was like, wait a minute. I didn't even know. I go, you have a glass eye. Yeah. He said, Vita Belfort on steroids.
That's right.
Steroids.
That's right.
There's a guy that
fucking eye out.
This is why I love Bisbing. There's a guy that paid the ultimate price too, man.
Yeah.
That's a fighter, man. He didn't, and you still look at him today. He's happy as shit. He's walking around. But
he's a great commentator. And by the way, a lot of guys who lose their eye stop fighting. You stop fighting when you lose a fucking eye. Not Bisbing.
Yeah.
Like, give me a glass eye and I'll be back tomorrow.
Interestingly enough, Alan.
He's looking to fight some
Belcher.
YouTubers now.
Alan Belcher is from my hometown, and he had the torn retina. He retired for the eye issues and everything. He's coming back in August to fight for bare knuckle.
I seen that. I follow him on Instagram, and he's jacked now.
Oh, dude, he's like 245.
Yeah. Huge. Wait, how's his eye though? Do you know?
I don't think he ever got it surgically repaired or anything. I think he's been living with it for several years.
Wow.
He's taking a shot at it. So we're gonna see.
Well, guys, listen, I can't thank you enough for coming on this thing. I've been a fan of both of yours for so damn long, so it's very exciting to me. I've been producing estrogen this entire podcast, so I haven't been around this kind of masculine energy in a long time.
This is why I love this guy, Tom. That's awesome.
Hey, Ray, Chris, I look forward to grabbing a beer with you guys. I hope to see you in person sooner than later. If you're ever out in LA, and you don't call me, I'll call a couple guys.
I don't.
All right.
And Brian, and vice versa, both of you guys.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, man, I would love to. By the way, Ray, I promised my wife I would tell you that you are her favorite. She listens to Anik and Florian every week just to hear the Ray Longo minute.
Oh my gosh! Another Ray Longo fan.
Wait, what's her name? I'm gonna give her a shout.
Tara McCormick.
What's her name?
Tara.
Sarah McCormick.
Tara. Tara.
Tara. Oh, I'm sorry, Tara McCormick. I got it. Tell her she gets a big shout out and a virtual hug.
Hey, let's do this.
She loves you
often,
too, Chris.
Let's do this more often.
Well, tell Tara I say hi.
Always welcome back. Always welcome back. I had a
Anytime.
great time. I appreciate you guys.
All right, man.
Yeah,
my
thank
pleasure.
you.
Thanks,
Great
guys.
to meet you too.
Fun times. Thank you, guys. Take care.
I'll call you later, buddy.
Thanks,
Chris,
Later.
speedy recovery, man. Keep doing it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're an inspiration, brother.
Thank you, buddy. Bye.
All right, buddy. See you later.
All right, you want to go ahead and jump Dov in here? He's in the waiting room.
That was great.
That was fucking awesome.
Bring him on. Bring him on in.
Coming on through. The hilarious, the powerful, the great Dov Davidoff from a side view. Oh, here we go.
You waiting for me? Yeah, I was. So cute. How do you feel?
Back into audio.
Come here, Mikas.
Yeah.
Oh.
There he is.
Some PDA on the podcast.
Oh, yeah, that's my girl. I love her. Say hi. Say hi to Dov. Say hi to Tom.
Oh, hi.
Hey, nice to meet you.
That's
Hi,
Kid
Dov.
Dynamite.
Oh, young lady.
I can't hear you guys.
Kid
but I
Dynamite.
know you're telling me how
They're
much you
saying-
love me, Dov.
Yeah. All right,
I
babe.
love you too, and I miss you so much.
I wish you'd stay up.
I'm too tired.
All right. Hey, Dov, thanks a lot. We just had Chris Weidman, Ray Longo, and Jon Anik on, and now you're on. This is
You're
how
the,
we
you're the
roll.
finale,
okay.
the grand finale.
That's how it is.
Hey, then, listen. I'm in the kind of championship company that that I've earned.
You're damn right.
Yeah. What's going on? Are you
we
in
got-
the country, Brian?
I'm in France. I'm doing
Yeah.
this whole fucking thing from France. I apologize to the listeners ahead of time.
Wow.
I'm in the south of France. I'm drinking the best wine in the world, and I went surfing today. And when I say surfing, I mean boogie boarding, because I tried surfing and it hasn't worked out for me. But I did get on a fucking boogie board, and they made me go out to the big waves. I caught a huge wave. I almost panicked, but I rode it all the way into the beach, and I went, "That's enough for me." And that's how it is. The sea scares the fuck out of me.
As well it should. As well
Yeah.
it should.
Yeah. I mean, I'm out here in one of the places in France where they do a shitload of surfing, Biarritz, where the sea is not your friend, and the sea doesn't give a shit about you. And if she takes you, by the way, if she takes you, she takes you, Dov. She takes you.
Yeah. She
Now,
takes you.
while I sip my Dominus 2006, I want to first of all, Dov Davidoff, everybody.
Yeah.
And I know, Tom, you feel this way because you said this to me.
Yeah.
For my money, one of the best comics ever. How
I
about
try
that?
to do the right thing. I'm trying
He's
to
a
do
funny
the right
motherfucker, man. I remember watching your half hour on Comedy Central like 15 years ago, probably 14
Oh, yeah,
years
yeah,
ago.
sure, yeah.
I was in
Yeah.
ninth grade. I'm 28 years
Yeah,
old. I was in ninth
bet,
grade watching
man.
that dude.
I
I've been
bet.
a big fan.
Yeah.
We both co-headlined it in Albany, and he's still.
Brian headline, I middle, but it was a good
I
show.
don't headline. You don't. I don't headline anything.
It was excellent. It doesn't matter to me. What's going on?
Dov, there's no bigger fight fan in the comedy world than you, and you know fighting,
Yeah.
and you know how to box. You study a little jujitsu, but you
Yeah.
know you're fighting. You know you're fighting.
Yeah, I follow the game closely.
Yeah, and I want to break down. I want to break down 3 fights. I want to break down
Yeah.
Greg Hardy, Tai Tuivasa, and I want to get your thoughts on that first.
I'll go ahead and give you the odds. I don't know if you know him yet, but Tai
I'd like to
Tuivasa,
hear him.
Tai Tuivasa on Bovada right now, who sponsors this show. Go to roughhousefriday.net/bet. Tai Tuivasa is -140 as the favorite, and Greg Hardy is +115 as the underdog.
Yeah, listen, I mean, I don't know. How does it break down? Greg Hardy is a fast twitch guy, right? I mean, he's a former NFL, unusually formidable physical presence. And for a guy his size, moves really quickly and is probably less experienced than Tuivasa, although I don't know how many fights offhand the New Zealander is. He from Australia. Tuivasa's had, but I mean, Tuivasa, what I've seen is he can stay in the pocket. He's got that Mark Hunt-like kind of, body where you don't expect him to be as explosive and athletic as he is.
He's Samoan. So
yeah, and there's a lot of
something
fucking
about-
calories whenever you drink a beer out of a shoe every day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
No, he's a scary guy because he's a banger. I mean, I don't know if anybody's put him out yet. I know Hardy's been stopped. But I mean, it sounds like the odds makers have it right. You got to think Tuivasa's probably, if the fight goes beyond 1 round, he's got stamina. He's less dependent upon fast twitch and will sit in the pocket with a lot of confidence in his chin. And trains with a guy like Hunt. I mean, I don't know to what degree Hunt's rubbed off on him, but Hunt is a frightening guy. And so is Hardy, but Hardy is, he seems like a guy whose game plan would be more contingent upon explosiveness, which would serve earlier rounds, or, one. Maybe
So the money. So where's your money?
My money is on the New Zealander. My money's on Tuivasa.
Yeah, so we talked to Jon Anik earlier, and he said like 95% or more of people he's talked to is going with Tuivasa. Then he knew one guy that was going with Hardy. When you bring up Mark Hunt, one of the funny things I saw whenever I was doing the research for the Conor fight was on the embedded. They were watching, this is for the first Conor Dustin fight. They were watching Mark Hunt and Big Country fight, and Mark Hunt walk off knockout to Big Country, which nobody fucking does that. And Conor was joking. He's like, Mark Hunt's going to thank Jesus first in the interview. First thing Mark Hunt does, he's like, I want to thank Jesus Christ. And Conor goes, he goes, Jesus loves fucking knockouts. He's like, Mark Hunt throws a big uppercut and Jesus goes fucking nuts up there.
No, Hunt is a character.
Tuivasa.
Tuivasa is a character too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
So Tuivasa. So your money's on the Samoan.
I think gun to my head, my money's on the Samoan. I mean, you know, the odds makers are saying that the fight is reasonably close, certainly a lot closer than 95% of people choosing Tuivasa. But yeah, I mean, Greg Hardy's a guy that if he finds you early, you know, with that kind of size and speed, the physics are that you end up on the wrong side of that. It could be a short night for anybody. But I don't, you know, I mean, if they get to trading, I like the guy that trains with Hunt. And Greg Hardy is not, you know, some superstar wrestler. I mean, a lot of the damage he's done is on, you know, athletic formidability and you know, he's not a cool cat in the pocket. I mean, he's still a raw young guy who's learning as a professional. And so in my limited opinion, I go with the guy with a bit more experience who'd be cool in the pocket with a tremendous chin.
So I've been on the fence for the last hour. I know Brian's he really wants to put his money on Greg Hardy. Chris Weidman and Ray Longo made a pretty good case for Greg Hardy. I think if Greg Hardy loses, if Tai Tuivasa knocks him out, Brian should do a shoey on the next episode.
There you go. You know what?
Nassim
Taleb, Brian, you know, the author I'm a big fan of, who's a mathematician, and he's a professor now, but was a finance guy that bet on his own ideas. He said in Skin in the Game, he said, if I have a choice between two surgeons, one looks like they're out of central casting and the other guy looks like a butcher. He goes, take the butcher. They've had to overcome more to achieve the same thing. And when I'm looking at this guy from Australia, you know, he was not your star athlete early on. And he's a guy that, in order to, you know, maybe not be the quickest guy in the game and the ability to sit in the pocket, I'm going to bet on that over the fast twitch guy. But the fast twitch guy's always got a shot, and that's what makes fighting interesting.
Dov, when you say fast twitch,
doesn't look like it.
When you say fast twitch, I keep hearing African American. I'm just going to say
thinking
it.
the same thing, Brian.
I mean, if you got to make this racial.
Yeah,
but by the way,
all those NFL guys are fast twitch guys.
Speaking of racism, Tom, make sure that Tai Tuivasa is not Maori. He might be Maori or Tongan, so I apologize.
We have called him Samoan about 50 times today.
Right. There you go.
I mean, you know, for us, it's like they're all giant men who can beat the shit out of us, us European.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Us slow twitch European men.
You know, Hardy's had 10 fights as a pro. Tuivasa's only had 15, so it's not like there's an enormous, you know.
Yeah.
Tuivasa was born in Sydney to an indigenous Australian mother and a Samoan father.
There you go. All right. I like it. Okay, good. Dov, let's move on. Let's move on to Wonderboy Thompson, Gilbert Burns.
We got Wonderboy at -170 and Gilbert Burns at +140 as the underdog.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with those odds as well. You know, I mean, look, everybody has trouble reaching this Wonderboy. You know, karate gets a bad rap, but between
it's pronounced
karate. Sorry, Brian, I apologize.
No, it's no.
Class it up a little bit.
Karate. Yeah, karate. You know, those karate guys, and what's his name? Of course, the most famous karate guy of all before Thompson. I mean,
Superfoot Bill Wallace.
No, you know who fought? Who he?
Leo Machida.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, the name didn't come to me, but
drinks his piss every day.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Nothing.
That's a goddamn rumor, you racist. Keep going.
Those guys, you know, you gotta think. If Gilbert Burns, you know, can get Wonderboy down, but you know, if he can get next to him, but nobody can get next to him. I mean, you know, what's he lost? Once, twice? I mean, and learned how to deal with wrestlers from early on. I don't think he ever wrestled a day in his life until he really started, you know, getting into MMA. And the guy he's really fast and really coordinated. I think as a kickboxer or something, he was like
57-0. 57-0 is good.
So there's a reason they call him Wonder Boy. You know, a lot of these names that if people aren't familiar with what goes on in gyms, like they think that they're just sort of wacky bullshit, but they get those names for over time through their styles. And so Wonder Boy got that name because nobody could touch the fucking guy. So they call him Wonder Boy because he stings.
Well, they call me the kid because I don't age. But keep going. Now, when I say they call me, I gave myself that nickname, but that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. Keep going.
No, listen, if that Gilbert Burns that fought Woodley comes to the dance, you know, you can't count him out against anybody. That guy's a killer, man. I mean, number 1, 2, 3 in the division, you know, I mean, who's got an argument that Burns isn't in the top, 3 guys in the division?
Yeah, I mean, the
It's
talk
Rank
leading
number
up to
2.
the talk leading up to the Usman fight was he was the guy. He was the one that was going to figure it out. I mean, I remember he was
that's right.
considered to beat Usman more than anybody I can remember fighting Usman.
But
in the past couple of years.
Usman isn't even human.
That's another
Usman is
fucking level.
You're talking about he's going to be the champion. That's a
Dude,
whole.
well,
different
Usman and
thing.
Wonderboy is a fun goddamn fight. I mean, that
That's a
excites me more
fun
than
fight.
It's
That's
just
a
so
fun fight.
stylistically different from everybody else that Usman's beat already.
Yeah, I mean, Wonderboy is just so frustrating. Can Gilbert Burns solve the same puzzle that almost no one's been able to solve? I mean, I don't know. I forget Wonderboy's last loss, but I mean, if he does lose, it's not usually by a whole lot.
Yeah,
and
so
it's
he lost to
because
Anthony Pettis a few years ago by knockout, but he was winning every second of the fight, and he got caught in the 3rd round there.
he got caught by another guy who can kickbox,
Right.
And
Right.
so I don't know. I mean, can Gilbert Burns throw some flying stuff? I mean, he's probably got, Wonderboy has a lot of reach on him. And even if they were the same height with the same reach, you still got to like Wonderboy's ability to control distance.
Yeah.
And so whoever's able to control distance when they make contact is going to win that fight. Because if Gilbert Burns can impose his game plan and get close, Wonderboy has great takedown defense at this point, but you got to see Burns is a monster on the ground. And if you stand with him, he's monster-like as well. Woodley couldn't stand with him.
So you've got Wonderboy though. Smart money's on Wonderboy.
I mean, listen, gun to my head, Wonderboy. But this Gilbert Burns, he can make anybody have a bad night if Wonderboy loses concentration or he's off a step. He just usually isn't. He can be caught, right? Woodley caught him in one of those fights. Didn't he fight Woodley twice?
Yeah, he fought him twice. Lost to a draw, and then he lost a split decision.
Yeah, exactly. And and a younger Woodley is not totally. Gilbert Burns more of a jiu-jitsu guy, but a younger Woodley, size-wise, relative to something like Wonderboy, it's a reasonable comparison or comp. In the real estate business, we call it a comp. A like-kind consideration leading us to a high probability conclusion. Am I right, guys?
Let's fucking
amazing.
We heard it.
All right, so let's move on. Let's move on. Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor.
Listen, if the fight goes late, I'm sure I'm just parroting what everybody else is saying. If the fight goes late, you got to like Poirier, who's a guy who's made his career on a lot more blood and guts. And Conor is another fast twitch guy. Nothing racial there. I'm Bryan. He's a fast twitch guy who puts people out. And can he go 5 rounds? Yeah, he ended up winning a decision against Diaz in fight number 2. But he's not a guy that looks great down the stretch. And Poirier is a guy like a Diaz who gets stronger seemingly down the stretch. If you look at his fights with Eddie Alvarez, and early on, he was never a guy that was a blazing talent, which means, again, as we go back to Nassim Taleb's analogy about the 2 surgeons of the same status at the same hospital, take the one that looks like a butcher.
Because Dustin's had to overcome so much. That guy can dig so deep. Think about the fight with Max Holloway.
Or Dan
Think about
Hooker.
that fight with Dan Hooker. He said, you
can go on and on. You can go Hooker, you can go Holloway, you can go I'm forgetting the last guy who just beat up, who's a killer, who just fought Khabib.
Well, he was Justin Gaethje. I mean,
Gaethje.
There's very few people that have what Dustin has in the later rounds. Paul Felder's another one that comes to mind. Him and Dustin Poirier in that division. Yeah. Those are 2 guys that just 4th and 5th round, they're as dangerous as they were in the first, or more, I would say, more so.
I agree.
And it's so exciting because the truth is people didn't really expect Poirier to win the last fight with Conor. And people didn't expect Poirier to win the fight with Alvarez. He's usually an underdog kind of guy who keeps beating the best guys in the world, except for Khabib, who nobody can beat. So after round 2, my money is on Poirier.
Well, dude, to show you the difference.
Listen, Conor catch it with that crazy left, fast twitch. He's got a fast twitch Irish left.
He's a blonde black man is what you're trying to say.
He's got something going on. I mean, it's real fast twitchy. You know who else is real fast twitchy is the 35 pounder, that keeps losing for some reason, but we're super quick. What's his name? With all the ink out of Uriah Faber's camp. Cody Garbrandt.
Cody Garbrandt.
Yeah, real fast.
Yeah.
Connor's fast.
Yeah.
Connor's fast. Fast guys do well early on. And then every now and then you get a freak like Mayweather who's as good in the second half of the fight and is also fast, but that's a rarity.
Well, Conor did fight Nate Diaz in the second fight, the distance, and got the better of him and didn't.
And it was a very close fight.
Yeah,
and it was a very close fight.
Conor can dig deep. Conor's got that X factor. He is a great champion, as is Dustin. And Conor has a very high fight IQ. So
it's one of the few times you can get Conor at plus money ever.
Here's how I feel. If you're a gambler and if you enjoy gambling, and
Yes.
you want to win real money,
Yeah.
you take a gamble. You bet Greg Hardy. You bet Gilbert Burns.
Brian, you're coming
You
about this
bet-
all wrong.
I don't give a fuck. And you bet Conor McGregor. And that's where I'm putting my fucking money. I said it out loud.
You're taking
Okay,
Gilbert
so-
Burns?
Look, man, I'm just telling you right now, I'm a
Okay.
gambler.
All right.
All right. I'm not a smart gambler, but I'm a gambler.
All right.
I gamble to lose, obviously. You gamble to win. But here's the thing. I do like the idea that, that's where you win some big money. And it isn't reckless. It's not reckless
No, none of it
to
is.
bet on any of those guys.
No,
It's not
these
reckless
guys-
to bet on Gilbert Burns. It's not reckless to bet
No.
on Conor McGregor. And it's not reckless to bet on Greg Hardy. It's not reckless. I understand the arguments. I do. But I'm looking at Greg Hardy as a better athlete who has a crazy short learning curve, great athletes figure shit out much faster than regular athletes. And, Gilbert Burns is insanely explosive, crazy jujitsu. He doesn't have the takedowns that the high level wrestlers do, I don't think. But
Yeah, but high level wrestlers have done nothing against Thompson either.
that's true. That's
Nobody,
true.
nobody's putting that guy on his back. I mean, early in his career,
Yeah.
people put him on his back.
Yeah.
No more.
So I would
No,
say throughout this show, Stephen Thompson has been the unanimous bet from everyone.
Yeah, he is.
so
he is.
far.
I'm not comfortable putting money on Gilbert Burns. I'll be honest. Wonder Boy is just, I don't know how you solve
So
the
so what's your final take, gun to head, where your money would go on Conor and Dustin, though?
Or yeah.
For you. All right. So
Poirier.
what we're gonna do is, Brian, I want you to pick 3, and I'm gonna pick 3, and we're gonna bet on these on Bovada. Try
Okay.
to win some money, hold ourselves accountable. If we fucking go 0-6, well, we'll talk about it next week and hopefully get better by talking to all you guys.
Well, so far the majority has picked what the odds are in favor of.
Sure.
Well, that's actually not true. Ray Longo and Chris
Chris
Weidman,
both were on Hardy.
they were both on Hardy.
Thomas, what's the line on Poirier?
Poirier is slight favorite at -125, and
Okay.
Conor is even money, +100. Now, and for reference, the
It's
first
a pick'em fight. It's a
the
pick'em
first
fight.
2 fights, Conor was -280, and Dustin was like almost
Wow.
+300 in the first 2
Right.
fights.
Yeah.
That's insulting.
Yeah, that
That's
was
crazy.
ridiculous. Obviously, they got it
Well,
right the first
also,
time. But
you got to think that the calf kick is not necessarily going to be there again, and but
Well, but what that proves also is that the odds makers are wrong all the time, and sometimes very wrong. So
that's the
I
idea.
got
Is you want
Hardy.
to catch
I
him.
got Hardy over Tuivasa.
Okay.
I'm betting on athleticism, and I'm betting on his learning curve.
And you can also bet on
Um,
the over under 2.5 rounds, like we talked about earlier. So either of those for the fights, either the fighter or the over under 2.5
If the fight
rounds.
goes past 2.5 rounds, I got Tuivasa.
Okay.
I don't know that Hardy's cardio is there.
Yeah.
And I because of experience, I feel like Tuivasa figures out Hardy's patterns.
Yep.
Faster than the other way around.
So you got Greg Hardy.
I got Hardy in the first half of the fight. So for overall, I'm picking Hardy.
Okay.
I got if the fight, I got Conor. Conor has a chance in the first 2 rounds. I think that Dustin is too big. He hits too hard. His striking is, if you add his kicks, his striking is every bit as good or as complicated as hard to figure out for Conor. The thing that Conor has is he's a great champion. He's got a crazy high fight IQ, and he finds a way to win, especially when he gets a second go at it. So we haven't seen, besides Nate Diaz, we haven't seen him have a second go at this. Okay. Yeah. I don't know what his mindset is. I don't know what that $200 million does to you. I don't know. So smart money is on Poirier.
Where's your
Smart
money?
money's on Poirier. But I like that lucky charm, man. That Irish lucky charm.
I
There's
think that's
something about
racist.
that guy. It is, but that as a guy whose father's side is from that part of Ireland that Conor's from.
You have an Irish friend, so you can say it.
Yeah, right. I'm half Irish, but I think that at the end of the day, I don't think it's reckless to choose Conor. I think that the fun choice is Conor. I think if you're a gambler and you got any fucking stones, you go with the Irishman.
All
Now,
right.
I know Dustin a little bit, and I'm a bit of a bitch, so it's hard for me not to have a crush on him. So I love Dustin. So betting against Dustin's really hard for me emotionally.
You could
because I
also
know him,
just
I think
bet
he's
on the
awesome.
over under 2.5 rounds. You don't have to pick a fighter right here.
Yeah, man. If it goes past 2.5 rounds, I got.
But do you think the fight will go
Poirier.
past 2.5 rounds?
I don't.
Okay, so under 2.5 for you on that fight.
Yeah.
And then what about Wonderboy and Burns? You skipped over that one.
Again, I mean, I agree with the vast majority here.
Yeah.
I don't know personally, because I'm not a fighter. I don't know how Gilbert Burns solves that puzzle. I don't.
Gotcha.
Because even if he closes the distance, it's not like his jiu-jitsu is world class. It's not like his takedowns are world class.
Okay.
Most fighters don't know either. I noticed that, Chael, I mean, all of these guys are wrong as much as anybody's wrong, which is what makes the fight game so interesting.
Yeah.
And that's why we're doing this show too, is because we're probably going to be wrong a lot too. And the idea is we'll talk to so many people like yourself who breaks it down so elegantly, and we'll learn as we go and hopefully get better at it as the show goes on.
And this has been a long podcast, Tom. Yeah, and this has been a long podcast, Tom. So what we're going to try to do is make these things shorter, so that we get as many people as we can in 10-minute segments, so that we get this wisdom of the crowd. We get this broad spectrum.
Right.
So we're figuring it out as we go along. But this has been Roughhouse Friday.
All right, so you got Stephen Thompson, Greg Hardy, and then Connor and Dustin to go under 2.5. I'm going to take Greg Hardy and Tuivasa under 2.5, Wonder Boy, and fuck it, Conor McGregor.
I love
putting the money on Conor McGregor. Fuck it. And Dustin Poirier is from right down the street where I'm from, Lafayette, Louisiana. Shout out. I hope I don't see him at the market when I go back home.
I think Dustin's going to win, and I think Dustin is the smart choice, and I love Dustin Poirier. As a gambler, I want to win some money and take a risk, and I might put it on.
None of these are big money. There are no deep underdogs here.
Right.
All three of these fights are relative pick'em. The biggest distance between the fights is what, like
Gilbert Burns is like plus 140.
Plus 140 is a close fight. That's a tight fight.
Close fight.
Dov
Davidoff, you're the best. Where are you going to be? Where can they find you?
At Dov Davidoff, all that social media, and on Instagram and Twitter, and I probably won't check it anyway.
Are you doing any gigs?
I'm not leaving anytime soon. I have to be in the city for a bit. I'm at the Comedy Cellar every weekend. That's where
if you guys are in LA, I'll be at the Ontario Improv July 29, 30, 31, or I think it's July 30. Yeah, 29, 30, and the 1st, something like that. Anyway, Thursday through Friday.
I'll be doing stand up for the first time ever this Monday night at the Creek in the Cave in Austin. So if anybody wants to come fucking heckle me for 2 minutes, let's do it.
I love it.
Cool,
August.
cool.
August. I'm also at the Houston Improv. I think I can't remember, man. I think it's the beginning of August. Look at anyway, go to bryancallen.com or tfatkz.com. All right.
Fucking love you, Dov. Thanks, man. It was nice to meet you. I'm a big fan.
You're the best, buddy.
Yes, sir.
This has been Roughhouse Friday, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, make sure you go rate the podcast 5 stars, all that stuff you're supposed to do on new podcasts. Follow us everywhere. There'll be a link tree in this description of this episode, and you can find fucking everything everywhere we're at. Check out On It, promo code Roughhouse. Check out Bovada and bet with us at roughhousefriday.net/bet. And that is the first episode, Brian. It was fun.
Yeah, baby. Thanks, Tom, for setting this all up. And
Yes,
we'll talk to you guys soon. That was fun.